Hi, everybody. Chris Gethard here. Welcome to Planet Scum. This is a Twitch where we put up all sorts of comedy and stuff. Thanks for checking it out. A very special evening, a special event. We usually do Wednesday nights at 10. This is Monday at 9. Big time shift. I have to first of all, thank you to Dave Cohen. He's really helped with Planet Scum, the logo, the branding. It's really cool that people are doing that and helping out and being a part of the community. You can join our Discord, and that's where the whole community hangs out. And I'll tell you what, they're all really nice people. And if you want to phone call into this show, not phone call into this show. That's how old I am. I call it phone calls. But you join the Discord, and there's a whole mechanism there. You can call in, you can talk to me and Will Hines about improv. This Wednesday night at 10, I'm going to be joined by Robbie Hoffman and Will Miles, two former Gethard show writers, opposite ends of the personality spectrum. I'm going to open it up to you. If you guys need life advice, you get life advice from Robbie, or it will land. The real advice will be somewhere in the middle, those two people's opinions. And next Monday night, oh, this is exciting stuff. And Will, you'll like this too. We just got word. The George Lucas talk show, which the great Connor Ratliff is the spearheader of, and great friends of mine, Griffin Newman's involved, Patrick Cotner's involved. They're going to use our Twitch. We're going to let them use our real estate here. They're going to do a May the 4th, Star Wars Day, George Lucas talk show on Planet Scum. All day Star Wars movie watch along. Connor, Griffin, special guests along the way. It's going to be raising money for UCB employees. And I'm being told, Bryson, that we should expect it to be 28 hours long. Is that true?
From what I was told, 28 hours, including the Ewok movies.
They're doing every Star Wars canon movie and the Ewok movies. So everybody hang out for 28 hours. Connor Ratliff. And Bryson, do we know, is he pretending to be George Lucas the entire time?
Well, I mean,
Connor doing it?
Really, the copy is going to read George Lucas and Watto present the George Lucas talk shows.
So 28 hours of Griffin pretending to be Watto.
Connor does not like doing anything that doesn't like hurt. You know what I mean? It's always like some extraordinary feat.
He's like the ultra marathon comedian. He's like the comedy version of running an ultra marathon.
Yes. It's like you don't even know these numbers were possible until he says, the things he does.
Most people do a 100-yard dash. The really extreme will do the 26.5 marathon. And he goes, well, I'll run 100 miles through the desert.
Yes.
For no reason. As everyone can see, Will Hines is here. Here's what's prompting this special event tonight. UCB in New York is closed. It will exist in some form. No one knows what that's going to be, but it's fair to say that the place where Will and I came up is gone.
That's right.
And that's sad for us. I will say, I'm the first to admit, Will, you haven't been in New York the past few years.
That's right.
I will say that I haven't been there in a few years. There's a number of reasons for that. I think there are a lot of people disillusioned with UCB. I get it. There's a lot of reasons to be, and I know there might be people who coming in here going, why are these two dudes celebrating this thing that's like caused all this divisiveness? I get it. I'm with you. There's been some stuff that has affected me negatively, and I was like a kingpin there. I was like, so I get it. I get it, and I'm with you. But we are going to talk about the old days maybe, and specifically this art form that I haven't done in many years, but that I can tell you in celebration of my youth spent at UCB, there is probably no one over the years that I've had more lengthy discussions of improv history, improv methodology, philosophy, and even still when we meet up, you're one of the few people, Will, who I will go down this route.
You'll go back the improv route a little bit.
I will.
Even though you've mostly left it behind.
I have, performing wise. But I think you are under the impression that I hate it. And I don't hate it.
I think I did think that, and I like kidding you about that.
You do. You put up an internet comment that said, you said something very nice. You said I was a good improviser, whether I like it or not.
I said you're the best improviser ever, whether you like it or not.
I don't know that that's true, but
you're one of the best improvisers. You're certainly one of the best improvisers I know.
I feel the same way about you, and I'm proud of what I did with improv, and I'm proud of my skills, and I think I could still go out and do it at a high level. I did. Before we get into that, I do want to ask you a question. So,
but I did think you hated it, and I do know that you consider that a past chapter.
That's true. I needed to move on for a variety of reasons.
And I think there was a time when you were early in that transition that you needed to kind of like set a hard boundary, maybe even in your own brain, like that's over. And so that was kind of like almost like a hard stay out of my space, stay out of my mental space improv. And now you've had enough time that you can be a little bit softer about that. You know that like, yeah, I've moved on. So I can sort of get into the nostalgia of it without thinking I'm going to get sucked back in.
And it's not even a matter, like I'm at a point where I feel like I was really heavily pursuing stand-up and felt like that was a massive challenge and did need to draw a line in the sand of, I can't rely on this thing that I know I've gotten good at over the years.
Yeah.
Because if I don't cut it off, how am I going to ever be comfortable going out and just bombing over and over and over again when I know there's this very tempting thing that I could go do instead?
You're also trying to change your identity. And if you're known as the UCB guy or the improv guy, and you're trying to build cred in a new thing, you got to kind of be like, that part's done. I'm going to take my lumps and whatever. Yeah.
But I love it. And I loved it. And when the art form is good, I think it's completely exciting and a huge adrenaline rush to do and watch. I think most of it, like most comedy, is not good. So that's a bummer, but I still do it. Now, I did want to start with a question for you tonight, if that's okay.
I would love it. I was so excited when you asked to do this, by the way. So thank you.
And this can go literally as long as you want. I'm in for the long haul. And again, if anybody has questions about improv history, philosophy, Will is a fantastic teacher. I have not taught in years, but I was good at it back in the day. I'm not saying
terrific
that to be cocky.
teacher. Terrific teacher.
One of the only things that came to me naturally.
I think I'm even not as good as my rep. I definitely am a passionate teacher. I'll say that.
That's not true. And we'll get into that. We'll get into all this. What makes a good teacher? That's a good question to mark down for. Okay. Should I be taking notes? I think maybe I'll be taking notes.
No, I think you can remember.
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say is that there's a Facebook group that has come about called the UCB New York Memories. And there's another one that's the UCB New York Bad Memories, which I tried because I thought it was funny, and it's actually heartbreaking.
Yeah, I'm not going in there. I can't take it.
It's some of the toughest.
I respect why it exists, but it's not for me.
Yeah. I've been reading it because I respect a lot of people need to. I should know some of the things that went wrong and respect them. Now, in the UCB New York Memories, the one that's more positive,
the good one, the positive one.
Don Finelli put up a post about you, Will Hines Memories, something along those lines.
Yeah,
he put up another one. Chris Gethard Memories, Magic Box of Gethard, a reference to an old show I used to do.
Yes. And
now it's fair to say, so Don put them up in the same group, which is to the same audience. So it's fair to say that this is scientifically like a good control. Yours, the last time I checked, had something like 86 likes and 112 comments. Mine had 14 likes. One of them was you, and it had 4 comments, 2 of them from Don on his own post. So even if you give me Don's comments and you count those as 4, we should probably only give me 2, Patrick Noth and Jess Lane. Thank you for that, Patrick and Jess. But why do you think, in the memory of New York Improv, I did the math on this, you are respected and beloved 27.5 times more than me? Why do you think that is? This is mathematical. This is a scientific thing. It's in the same group, same person.
Well, I don't think that's true. I think
it's numbers wise that it's true.
Well, first of all, it was Magic Box of Gethard versus all of Will Hines. If somebody started a thread, the real question is, why did nobody start just a Chris Gethard appreciation thread? If somebody
that was what Don was trying to do.
I think those numbers would be a little higher, but
27.5 times more popular than me in the New York community. I think when did you leave New York?
6 years ago.
6 years ago. And I have to be clear, even though I haven't been at UCB as often as I used to be,
you are in New York. You're a New York guy, yeah.
I'm in New York for 6 years, and yet you outshine me.
And you and Tammy will do shows there. Now
we did.
Then, right?
The last improv I was doing was Sager and Gethard.
Yeah.
That was up until 3-4 years ago.
Maybe because people know that you left and it's not part of your identity. And I've never left. Like, I teach at UCB. You know what I mean? I do podcasts and talk about improv. And I wrote a book and I self-published it. So people are like, I never left. So it's kind of like, Gethard doesn't need it. Gethard doesn't think of himself that way. This is Will's thing. Like, we can't, he'll die if we don't show up.
But I had students who I was really connected with, close with. I played favorites big time. You would think some of those people I played favorites with would at least at least pound like for me, but it's okay. 27, which I feel like is a real victory because
I thought that Curtis Rether. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go for it.
No. I'll follow up.
Well, I was gonna say I feel like it's ultimate victory for you because the very earliest iteration of the Gethard show, you were
Our
one
feud.
of the
Yeah, we were there. We were
one of the core 4 cast members. We had a massive feud, a prank war. We really psychologically messed with each other, and I beat up on you a lot comedically. But then the show became this very weird thing where everything was also real. Psychologically, it was very strange. But you have now won via your 27.5 times more popular than I am.
I'll take it. I'll take a victory in that feud.
Yeah.
I think that Curtis Rutherford said something on Twitter that was pretty prescient, which was like, it was a subtweet, but I think he was like, "Oh, the UCB New York in death has found a way to make people feel excluded. Yes. Even in death has found a way to make people." And I think he was talking about the UCB New York Facebook memory group, about how some people were getting a lot of love and some people weren't, and like, because when the Will Hines love thread went up, I loved it. I read every single one of those. I loved it. And I was kind of wondering, am I going to get any love in this thread? And then I was also like, Will, who cares? It's social media. But I wanted it. I wanted it, and I loved it. So like, it is funny that you feel a little burned or whatever.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely,
like
100%.
And Curtis, I think, is implying that either he does or that some people do.
Fair.
And that is part of being at UCB, is feeling left out and not appreciated. Like that is a core, even in the glory days.
Oh,
even in the absolute best
even
times.
More so. Maybe even
feeling,
more so.
Feeling left out and not part of it was like kind of part of the engine that kept you running, was chasing this validation that you never feel.
Absolutely. And I mean, and like
so
I said,
it is kind of fitting.
I ran the school for a long time, wrote the first drafts of most of the curriculum for the school. And there were still times after that where I felt
not in it.
And so pinned to the wall in a negative way by the systemic nature of it. And that was me, a white guy who literally helped run the place. And there were times where I was like, man, I'm getting fucking shitted on. So if I'm complaining about it, what does a level 2 student feel like? What does somebody who's not a white guy feel like? Like I couldn't imagine. So anyway.
What do you want to talk about most? And I'll stay here. First of all, I'll stay here forever.
I'm in it as long as you are. I do want to say, remember, guys, you can call in and ask us anything about improv. I don't want to like UCB gossip too much, but it's fair to recognize that
we can walk the line. I think I don't want to talk shit about people either, but I don't mind. I do. Let's get in.
Well, it's the creative environment. It's the environment. What is an environment? Here's a great first topic to segue into that, into something more philosophical.
Okay.
The pressure cooker nature of UCB could make people feel excluded.
Yeah.
I would argue that being there in the early days is also part of why the bar got set so high. The Swarm wanted to be the most artistic team. Respecto wanted to be funnier than the Swarm every time. Mother showed up as the third big team. They were like, we're
very
not
competitive and ambitious, and like the stakes were artistically high every show. They wanted to
every time.
And they had the ability to crush it.
Yes. And you had to elbow your way in, which also meant you had to feel left out. In the old days when things were smaller, there's some argument that there was a lot of positivity about that. To you, what is the perfect balance that is conducive to good team-based improv? Here we go. We're getting real nerdy now. This is now officially a good classic Gethard Hines.
You want to get, I love that question, because you're right. Because on one hand, if you're not nurturing enough, and you're too exclusive and it's all competitive, that's no good. But if you're too nurturing and you let everybody in, that sucks. You've got to have the bar. I think UCB Chelsea era before the Beast was the perfect. It's basically, it's a numbers game. How many people are let in versus how many students are paying to keep the lights on. Somewhere in there is like an equivalent fairness to competitive ratio. And to me, when the UCB Beast opened, the scale started tipping badly. When it was just Chelsea and that was the only stage. So when it was 22nd Street, it was too competitive. It was too hard.
Right.
Too much to get in there. Although
you almost felt bullied at times.
Yeah, it was real cool kids versus the nerds, even within the nerdy world of improv.
It was, I remember you'd get up in a jam. For me, I was a student.
You were terrified in the jam. I remember you in the jam. You were terrified often in that jam.
Dude, I would drive up from New Brunswick, New Jersey,
and
20
not
years
get
old.
up.
I drove all the way up Friday at midnight. You saw me do that? I don't know that we've talked about
I saw you do that because like you were in my brother's classes,
yes,
and
your brother's one-on-one.
Kevin clued me into like this guy Gethard. He's hilarious. He called you Jersey. He was like, "There's this Jersey
Everybody
kid."
called me Jersey back then. Yeah.
He was like, "He's so funny." I'd be like, what do you mean funny? I don't give a shit. Let me see this dude. And I saw you in his level 1 grad show, and I was like, "Oh, he is funny." You played Jesus Christ in his grad show, and you talked about your muscles. You were like, "Look at these guns. I'm the Lord."
That was Jack Jesus. Yeah.
Jack Jesus. Yeah, it was really funny. So I was like, "Oh, he's funny." So at the jams, I would notice you, and I would go to those jams, the Friday night Respecto-led Friday night midnight jams. I saw you and Tarek Davis sitting in the front row, right
Sometimes
next to each other.
Sometimes it would be me by myself.
And I went there, and I didn't get up, and I noticed you also didn't get up, and I was like,
dude, I remember one night I'd been a few times, sometimes with Tarek, on my own. Sometimes I remember once I drove a 1986 Chevy Celebrity.
Yeah.
Driving up the Jersey Turnpike, and I'm like, this week I'm doing it. I don't care how it goes, good, bad, I'm doing it. I'm getting up. I don't care who's up there. I got to jump up once. And sat there Friday at midnight. And this is like, I've already worked a full week of work at Weird New Jersey. I've already taken a full week of class at Rutgers. I go sit there, so scared, don't get up. They end it. I get back into my car. And the whole ride down the turnpike, I'm going, "You're fucking scared. You're a fucking coward." And I like punched myself a couple of times. Like, why are you doing this to yourself?
I mean, I felt the same way. I mean, I mean, that's intense, but like I had
I had mental problems.
Yeah, you had like depression.
You've seen them up close. You've seen my mental problems up close.
You were still drinking then too. Like you had not quit drinking. You hadn't started so that was, and you were 20. You were also just 20, like, or 21 or whatever. Like, so you have all that.
There are a lot of problems. Problems. Yeah.
Well, I was 30. I felt older than everybody in the universe. But I remember taking the subway back to Williamsburg and just being bummed. And just being like, "What's wrong with me?" But the Respecto was so funny in those jams.
So funny. And they were such cool kids. All friends of mine.
Cool kids. So, and these ultimately are nice dudes, but like you felt left out. You felt like, I'm not cool enough to get on the stage with Rob Hubel and Rob Riggle. I can't do that.
No way.
I can't take.
The first time I went up, me and MC Chris jumped up together. He like grabbed me. Thank God. And I like yelled.
He had guts.
He had guts, yeah. And people would get like, if a young buck had guts, people would be like, "Who are you?"
Oh, who's this dude? Yeah.
And he grabbed me, and I yelled something about Captain America, and then Dynamo, boom, tagged me out. I was like, ooh.
Fast tag.
Yeah, and I was like half so scared that had happened and so sad, and half like, all right, I broke the seal on this.
MC Chris, you did get up there. You did get up there.
Yeah.
So if those dudes were ultimately nice dudes, and I'm sure they weren't trying to be intimidating, but it did feel like cool kids versus the nerds. Chelsea to me was the era when there was a really good balance. And again, there is no era of UCB where lots of people didn't feel left out. But that like 2003 to whenever the Beast opened, 2010, that was like the sweet spot of like, you got to be good. It's hard, but
it's a competitiveness that feels fair and productive.
There's ways in if you stick to it. Yeah, again, I'm sure there's lots of exceptions to that, but to me that was the sweet balance.
Yeah. And I would sometimes do very well coaching, because I think that's where before I was a teacher, I was known as a very good coach. Even when I was young, people were like, "Oh, this dude works cheap and squeezed a lot."
If I had to say you're one of the most important people in that early era from like 2000 until 2010.
The last 2 years. I left in 2012. You weren't as impressed by those last 2 years.
No, you had a fall off. I didn't like those 2 years. You sucked. You sucked in those 2 years. But like, you're one of the people. I would put Paul Scheer as the other name that doesn't get enough credit for like how much he did to like set stuff up. Kevin Mullaney, I think.
Kevin Mullaney, John Ross Bowie,
like people in the UCB nerds know Mullaney, I think, because he.
Yeah.
But I don't think they appreciate, like, Scheer would like coach everybody,
give everybody advice,
give good advice. And if you booked him like on an indie show and under St. Mark's, he would go early and watch the whole show and then crush at it and be nice to you after. I thought Sheer was like instrumental in like, and he would push you if he coached you when he was your Herald
100%.
team. He did not coddle you. He
No,
was
not
like,
at all.
you didn't find a game, you didn't do this. I loved Sheer.
Yeah, he
And
was great.
Sheer like felt ownership over the place in a way, and you were like this very young, where you like took it was like a responsibility to take care of the place.
Well, I've always liked spreading stuff out and grabbing young, like when I see good people. I think because I started when I was 20 and I was so overwhelmed. Whenever I see somebody, and I say the word young, not even meaning age, like someone new or green, I'm like, oh, they really get it. I always really enjoyed the idea of being like, listen, you stick with me. I play favorites. Like I'm good. I try to give something to everybody who I teach, but I'm going to kind of make you feel a little protected because you remind me of where I was at then. So it always felt important to me. And then that just kind of grew.
Well, you got it. You were so young. I remember when you were like, when like, they used to do.
We used to rehearse. My level 1 class used to practice in your office because you still had a day job as a programmer.
Kevin and I worked together. Kevin Hines and I were working together at a computer programming firm, and each of us had practice groups playing in the office after hours. Mm-hmm. I had mine and he had his. So yeah, you would come in sometimes there.
Yeah, I was going to say
but pretty young, you were like established. Like when I met you, you were 101 student in my brother's class. And like a year later, you were playing with the big boys in like the pile driver wrestling show. Like you and Delaney were
a sit-in.
A sit-in. Like the big boys were calling you in to sit in. You were like 21 or something like that.
I got lucky, but it was. I mean, A, it was smaller then, and B, every because it used to be Harold. It used to be the student shows
on Monday night,
then Harold night, and then cage match.
Oh right, on Thursday. On Thursday, yeah. 7:00 was the student show,
and everybody would show up.
Yeah,
every Harold team would show up.
Yeah,
every single performer at the theater, whether they had a show or not.
You'd watch the students, see who knew was coming up. Then you'd watch all 4 Heralds. Then the cage match, which was just Herald teams. You'd see 2 more Herald teams.
You'd stay in the same seat.
Go to McManus. Yeah.
So I'm a level 1 student, and I remember. No, it's my level 2 show. I remember Billy Merritt, Rob Corddry both came up to me. Hey man, that was really good. Like that was the thing. It was cool kids, but also they knew what was up because everyone watched every student show. When I was,
but I guess you go ahead.
Well, when I signed up for level 1, I don't know if you know this story. I called up, and Bowie used to run things then.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I'm in college. I want to come up in the summer, take a class, this and that. I was hoping for this one on Sundays, He's like, oh, that's sold out. I'm really sorry about that. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. Okay, I'll have to wait till the fall. And I go, hey man, because I was like a punk rock nerd, and I'm like, are you the same John Ross Bowie from Egghead? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh man, like that, you guys are one of my favorite bands. I read your fanzine, Go Metric. I have your 7-inch. And he just goes, all right, so the class, it's Sunday, 3:00, this and that. He just let me in.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, I was going to take it with my buddy. He's like, yeah. He's into, like, it was like, that's her. But if I didn't get in that June class, I would have had to wait till like September or October.
Right. Because there weren't that many classes.
Class open. So I was going to say though, I used to use the competitiveness to try to motivate, like Fwand. I tried to make them feel like, hey, man, everybody thinks you guys are
everybody
dumb.
Thinks you're stupid. Yeah.
Everybody thinks you're a bunch of fucking dumbasses, and they got great from it. And then I tried to do that with what was Finelli? It was Finelli, Kane, Elena.
The opera.
I tried to give them a big speech. Hey, there's 3 teams that just formed. You guys are the fucking top dogs.
Sandino, Monstro, and the opera.
Yes, and it clearly was the opera. We were all like, obvious. Monstro, maybe. Sandino, should we even do this? And it came in the exact opposite order.
Yeah, Sandino
crushed. I had to eat shit so hard.
Yeah.
And and part of why the opera didn't work out was because their first rehearsal, I was like, you guys are the best. We got to act like it. But remember, they're putting a target on your back too. So we got to come out. And I tried to use the competitiveness to motivate them, not what those people needed. And I put them so deep in their heads out of the gate. Massive
Remember failure. Opera's second show on Herald Night, the suggestion was Sandino.
Is that true?
Yeah, they're like, we get a suggestion, and somebody shouted Sandino. It was like, damn, dude, let them do 2 shows. The fuck?
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. Now, there were two people trying to call in. They have both hung up. I don't know if that means they got tired of waiting or if they heard what we were saying and said,
Enough of this. We don't care.
yeah, enough of this. This is
Should we
very
not talk about the old days? Should we talk about the newer days?
Well, yeah, you tell me, or do we want to talk about philosophy? There are some questions that have come in the chat. Like Sarah Davis, my friend Sarah Davis wants to know, I want to know if/how Will Nick takes notes in class while he's teaching.
I have a little like moleskin notebook, and I try to do.
This is what the people came for. Moleskin notebook, yeah.
And I try to just write down the two students' names and like 2 words for the scene. I don't like to take a lot of notes. I just want to be able to look at it to remind myself. So just like, Gethard Cragg, jacked Jesus, or whatever. And so that when I look, if I can't remember the rest of it, I feel like I'll talk too much if I take too many notes.
Yes.
And minimal notes keep it brief.
I used to scroll a ton of notes and then I couldn't read my own notes.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Is improv good? You walked away from it. You've had 6 years. Is improv good? Does it suck? Is it good? I have a feeling 20-year-old Gethard right now would not do improv.
I think you're right. Now,
20-year-old Gethard in whatever year it was, 2000.
Couldn't believe I found it. Couldn't believe I found it. Unbelievable to find it.
Should be the same, right? It's the same medium.
Well, because here's the real question. Is improv good as an art form versus is improv good as an art form right now?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is in a phase where, and again, I feel so bad because I'll say this.
Well, we could be wrong. This is just our opinion. We could be full of shit.
Part of it is also that I'm turning 40 this year and I'm probably fucking grumpy and old and like, yeah, back in my day. But here's one thing I will say is the best improv I've seen in recent years was I got booked to do stand-up at a place called Steel Stacks in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. So off the grid by our standards. And they asked me to sit on a couple improv shows. And
wait, where was this?
Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, this venue called Steel Stacks.
Okay, yeah.
And these guys put on a show where I was like, that's the fucking feeling I used to have. I feel them having the excitement, feel the audience having the excitement. I'm sitting here feeling excited about improv. This was 3 or 4 years ago. It's like, that was the best. And it was funny. I was like, holy shit, man, this is the first time. Like, there's improv I'll watch and enjoy sometimes when I drop by, in my tail end of days there. But that was the first time in a long time where I was like, fuck, man, that gave me that fucking energy again.
Is it a small theater?
It's a small theater and it's a small city, which
I wonder if that's part of what made you open to liking it. Like, there was such a bright spotlight on UCB. And it's kind of like getting out of that spotlight and just watching somebody do improv when you know that nobody's watching is almost like it kind of needs to be a hidden kingdom in a way.
Yeah, but I also feel like there is no doubt in anyone's mind that everyone there is doing it because they love it. And I don't know if you can guarantee that in any of the big 3 cities anymore, so it's tough. I'm sure there's still people who are, but that general feeling of like, we're all in this room and something's fucking happening just because it's happening. I have felt that in small cities as opposed to big cities. I feel great hope that the innovative stuff is going to come out of the small cities moving forward.
The weird thing about this is like because I still teach. I teach UCBLA. Right now I'm not doing shit because of the virus, but like, up until this thing shut down, I was doing a class on Sundays and I don't go on the road. I go on the road and teach here or there. Last May, I watched Herald Night at UCB. I just coached the UCB Lloyd team New York Saturday over Zoom.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because I've been teaching these online classes of my own, and one of the students was like, hey, do you want to coach my Lloyd team? And I was like, yeah, I'll coach the Lloyd team.
That's cool,
man.
Just
this past Saturday, it was a blast. We were called Shrek. We had a blast. It was really fun. And what I was thinking when I was watching them is like, man, their chops are so much better than like old days chops. Like they just know, like we didn't find a game on Herald Night. My Herald teams, my whole first year on Herald Night, my team Monkey Dick, we didn't find a game that whole year, I think.
No, you guys were great, but it wasn't game.
Gemberling was hilarious because he was a phenomenon, and Curtis wasn't even on the team yet. And like, I don't know, it was like...
You were good. There was a lot of hooting and hollering and stuff like that.
We did organic Billy Merritt shit. We
The
just kind of like,
earliest wave of organic, like the
yeah.
rudimentary.
There was novelty to it, but like I was watching Shrek, like they were just really good, and like their chops were good. I was like,
Yeah.
they're just like dotting their I's and crossing their T's in a way that we never did. And
You know what?
that's gotta be, that's good. I mean, that means like the
Great.
chops are strong, you know?
Well,
Like,
for years, I always felt like the median was getting higher. Like, we won't name names. There were some teams historically, you'd go to Harold Night and you'd see at least one team that was terrible.
abysmal.
So for anyone who romanticizes the old days of UCB, let's keep in mind,
I've
25% of what you saw was complete unwatchable.
I've always felt like the floor came up and the ceiling came down, like sort of like things were never as bad as it
the
could
floor
be.
raised. I don't know that the ceiling came down, but the floor has raised
The
faster
floor
than
raised,
the
like
ceiling
the
raised.
worst show on Harold Night at some point became so much better than the worst show used to be.
Can I tell you? Okay, man. Do we want to spill some tea? Do we want to spill some tea here?
Yeah, let's spill a little tea.
Here's where I think things got stagnant. Two-pronged issue.
Okay, I have opinions on this too.
What's up?
I have opinions on this too. I'm ready for this.
Here's where I feel like things got stagnant for me. Here's where I crapped out.
We're old, out of touch dudes.
And I had other
and
interests.
in a way, if we don't like it, that might be a good sign for shit.
Yes.
Because it's not for us.
Point one, exactly what I was going to say. Nobody moved on.
Yes. There used to be, in a weird way, the fact that I am still involved at UCB is a problem.
No, but you have the right mentality. This idea that you could get so far in a system and then you're allowed to just hang out when you never get notes. All of a sudden, it's like, if for me, and you know this from being on, first of all, on Stepfathers, I was really good, but you can vouch for me. I was more often than not the biggest fucking pain in the ass. If there was dissonance,
if we're gonna get into that, I'll qualify. We can get into that,
but you know what I mean. But some of it would be me
sometimes, yes. There were some nights where you were the biggest pain in the ass in the universe.
We won't name names, but you did once have to grab me and another cast member, bring us into the hallway in front of the rest of the team. That was you. And say, hey, whatever this is.
Yes, and I remember. Yes,
you two need to talk about it backstage instead of letting it happen on stage.
That happens to every improv team. I don't know.
Yeah, but the idea that, to me, I'm like, man, you get to a premiere slot. This is when you work harder than ever. But I think it became now I made it. I get to take it easy. Foot off tenure.
Yeah.
I want notes. I want to get yelled at. I want to be made to feel bad, like fucking Andy Secunda. Andy Secunda, dude. When I got on my first Harold team before our first show, Andy Secunda gave me the note: if you try to do that on our stage, people will laugh at you, not with you. Ooh. And I cried in my car, and then the rest of the team walked down the block and saw me crying in my car. But you know what? I didn't pull any fucking bullshit. So the idea that you can get to the top, stay forever with no accountability, that hurt it. And
I would put it differently. I know what you're saying, but I would put it differently.
Okay.
I just think there's too many old people around, and I'm one of them. And like in the old days, there was nobody old around. The UCB themselves were just over the age of 30. In the year 2000, let's say, nobody in New York had done Chicago style improv for more than 2 years, because that's when the UCB started teaching it. There was improv before that, but not like classic Chicago style long form improv. So there was nobody. There were no barnacles. No one had done it. Everybody was new. So like now you go to...
Secunda's in the chat and said, "I'm sorry, Gethard."
Oh my God.
I don't know if I've ever actually told Andy that. I don't know if Andy knew that before, right?
So
I think I told him like 8 years after the note.
I did love when Secunda joined Stepfathers in like whatever year it was.
Yeah.
He was so good, and he still had a fire for it. Like he would do anything. He was always up for, because he always wanted to discuss it and overanalyze it to death, which he would admit. He always wanted to gamify, to be like, how can we win that form? But he ultimately would be like, well, I'll do whatever. He said yes to everything.
Yeah.
So he always was very youthful in that way. Old man Secunda, who I think I might be older than.
Because he did a thing that I think a lot of people would be well served to do. He took some time off.
Yeah.
Had to think about.
Came back with fire.
Pursued a bunch of stuff professionally, and went, no, I still have some fire in my guts to go out and do some stuff with that.
Lots of old dudes around is something that didn't used to be true, and then it became more and more true. But didn't New York avoid that by having LA constantly suck people away?
I don't know. I don't think so. Because here's the other thing.
Because when I went to Herald Night last May, it was young. The
Harold
talent
Night and
in a
Lloyd
good
Night.
way.
I'm not
It
talking
was
about
young.
Harold
The
Night.
audience was young. I was like, when I saw Herald Night last May, I was like, this is good. This is like,
Well, here's what you can't have. What you can't have is the teams of veterans who settle into a thing
the
where
weekend teams.
The weekend teams, and they never want to get notes. They never practice, and have they earned the right to do it? Sure, but then I don't think the system could be take the best person on Harold Night, pluck them from a team, set that team back, set this person who's really motivated into an environment that's not as motivated.
I mean, we could. I know what you're saying. Like, the curfew was always pretty good about getting younger people in. The curfew stayed pretty diverse compared to a lot of the old weekend teams. The law firm for a long time kind of carried the torch of funny before rules in a good way. Like, they were kind of reckless.
The Ruru torch, yes.
So I don't know, like, and the stepfathers were like the old stodgy actors guards who were like commitment, like with Alex Dixon and Connor Ratliff.
Yeah.
Those are, I don't know, like, but so there's some exceptions to what you're saying, but I will say that the UCB never figured out what the process was for weekend team policing.
Yes.
Like, you basically got tenure and then there was no accountability. And sometimes that meant good things happened and sometimes that meant shit got lazy. And who could say? Like, I'm on a team in LA, who knows what's going on in LA, but like, called the Smokes, and we perform every Monday at 7. Everyone in that team is an old guard who loves improv, and we're passionate about it. But who's going to give the Smokes notes? Nobody. If the AD wants to come in and like bring the hammer, I don't know if the Smokes would listen.
Yeah. Okay, we got calls.
Right, let's do it.
This must be going well because we got callers. I think Joe Wise has been on the line longest. Let's go to Joe Wise.
All right.
Joe, unmute your mic and you're talking to me and Will Hines about improv. It's 40 minutes in. We're taking our first call. If you are enjoying this at all, smash RRRE and let me know, because I have to feel like this is insufferable.
We need our validation. We're still broken.
Joe, are you there? Yeah,
Can
Joe,
you hear
what's
me?
up? Yeah, you're talking with me and Will Hines about improv.
Awesome. So, I mean, I'm a huge improv fan, obviously. That's why I'm here. But one thing that always strikes me about improv is that it can't be done professionally in the same way that stand-up and other comedy can. And I never really understood why that was the case. Like, why don't improv teams go out and tour the same way that stand-ups do, and to a degree sketch people do? And
right.
Like, there's the new Schwartz and Middleditch specials on Netflix, which I haven't checked out yet, but it seems really cool, and like it could potentially move that
I want to talk about those
forward. And I just feel like, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, I will shout out that the Improvised Shakespeare Company has successfully toured and play festivals and do well. TJ and Dave tour different cities, do legitimate theaters. Baby Wants Candy for a long time toured. I don't know if they still do, but there are some groups that have figured it out. I would say, first of all, sadly, the standard is set that payment is not a thing you think about. That's kind of a bummer. It's good to see some people who are motivated, who have broken out of that. Secondly, I would say you need a touring agent. Let's say you have a small group. Let's say you have a 4-person group. That still means someone has to organize 4 plane tickets. That means someone has to organize at least 2 hotel rooms, maybe 4 hotel rooms. That means someone needs to rent the van. Someone needs to map out the whole tour. It's hard. It's hard to wrangle 4 to 8 people. Especially, I always used to say this in my classes. It's like improvisers are lazy inherently. It's part of what's beautiful about improv is like, you don't want to do a second draft. You want to show up 8 minutes before the show, get on stage, and then just rock out, and then people cheer for you, and that's what you're used to. So I think that the idea of organizing a tour is a lot harder than people know, and making money on a tour is a lot harder. I mean, as a stand-up, I'm pretty accomplished at this point, and I have had gigs in the last year where I lost money because of shady promoters or shady deals, and that's just me. That's just me as an individual. So much less bandwidth to organize it. So
people are mentioning the Black version, which is a long form improv show where they redo movies, but they do the Black version, and that's like a popular show that like sells tickets and stuff. there's other examples of what Gethard was saying is what I'm saying. We don't necessarily know because we're out of it.
No.
Dudes,
Yeah.
They're out there. But I have a more boring answer than Chris to that question.
Okay.
Which is like, generally speaking, it's
more boring than the logistics are difficult.
Yes, I do. I'm going to out-boring you. Get ready.
Okay.
If you want to know why, like, I mean, it's basically like improv shows are hard to sell and improv classes are pretty easy to sell. Mm-hmm. So like, if you want to make money in improv, first of all, it's not going to happen. But the only way to make even just pennies is to teach it. Like
Cypher Sounds toured his improv show. Cypher Sounds in the chat, which is amazing.
That's right.
Cypher.
That's right. Cypher's a miracle worker, right? Like Cypher puts like
the hardest working person.
The hardest working person in improv ever, and puts mountains on his back and climbs up a bigger mountain.
Yeah.
I mean, when that dude was doing this jam, it was, and is a goddamn nice man. Yeah.
Okay, so your answer, because we got callers. Now the callers are lining up.
We'll get other calls, but the short answer is shows are hard to sell, classes are easy to sell. So you can tour as a teacher and make money. A lot of people do that. Touring as a show, I don't know. It's tell a promoter, do you want to sell a stand-up show or an improv show? He'll be like, oh, give me the stand. But Middleditch and Schwartz might change that.
Yes.
I think Middleditch and Schwartz. I think Ben Schwartz on Netflix is doing what he did to UCB New York Cage Match on Hot Sauce, which is like he shows up and he's goofy and silly, and the old guard is like he's not doing it right. It's like the people have spoken; they love it.
I FaceTimed with Ben earlier today.
And, those shows
he asked me. I haven't seen them. I haven't seen them yet because I have a 1-year-old, so I don't get to watch things.
They're really funny.
They're in the queue,
and they are legit long form improv. I say, and it is going to be the thing that might break long form improv open because it's actual improv. It's being advertised as improvised. It's actually funny. Mm-hmm. It's not short form, and they are famous, but they're not like famous. It's not like Patrick Stewart and Tina Fey are doing it.
Yes.
So they're like comedy nerd famous.
And they're clearly driven by a love for it, which Ben, I don't know Thomas as well.
Thomas
Ben
loves it. Thomas
always had. Yeah.
They're both legit improv nerds from way back. Like, so I think that could change. That the game changer could have happened this week. The same week that UCB New York fucking died. Yeah. Middleditch and Schwartz could be breaking it open in a different. This could be it.
That's one of the things I still love about it, man. When I talk about it, is it's such a young art form. Started in the 1930s.
Relatively speaking, yeah.
Started in the 1930s.
And I would say the modern age is the early 90s. I mean, I would
early
say
90s, long 30s. The kind of improv
we're doing now is early 90s.
30s is children's games. Then you have playwrights here. Because all right, here's part of why I knew my shit, man. Because I always knew my history. Playwrights theater. It's got Paul Sills, David Shepard. He wants to make working class theater where there's fucking coal miners on the tables doing improvised scenes with each other. Then you got the fucking Compass players, the St. Louis Compass, the Second City, all this shit, man. Nichols and May.
Yeah.
This is all since the 1930s. And then we don't even get to the fucking IO stuff till the 90s. Are you kidding me? So we might still figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to the phones. Betsy Mulvane. Let's go to Betsy. Betsy Mulvane, how are you? You just have to unmute your microphone, Betsy, and then you'll be able to talk to us here. I know that this is a little tricky. How are you, Betsy?
I'm good.
Unmute your microphone, and then you'll be able to.
Thank you.
Now you got to turn on your computer.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for doing this. I was on a Lloyd team last year and this year when the theater shut down. And my question for the two of you, I really respect both of you, is for the people that are still willing to continue on once we are out of lockdown and quarantine and try and, this community back together, whether we have a space or not, what would be your advice for us in how to do that?
You need a moment to formulate your answer because I'll just go on.
Chat. You go ahead. I'm ready to answer, but you can go ahead first.
I mean, here's the thing I always say, and Will, you can vouch for me on this. I feel like one of the reasons that my students liked me as much as they did, even though they can't be bothered to leave even a single comment of support that would make me within spitting distance of your popularity. 27.5 times more popular than me.
I don't know, man. Give a shit about improv.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, that's true. Well said. Imagine if you never came back. If you just said, give a shit about improv, wandered off screen. No, but here's the thing I would say is and I've always thought this, which is like you know that Finelli's one of my very good friends.
Yeah.
And one of my very we started collaborating. He was still in classes.
Yeah.
I think I was very good about it, maybe more than a lot of the other veterans, about being like, you're good.
Yeah.
So you're in level 501. That's fine. You're funnier than half the fucking people I see on teams. It's just a matter.
I think there was a lot
taste.
of veterans who did that, but yeah, I know
Yeah.
you were very good at it for sure. There was lots of people who their moment of getting confident was when Gethard told them they were good. I think that's totally true.
Well, and I'd be like, because I don't care, and it's not like people were bad, but I'd just be like, oh, you're funny to me, and there's other people doing their thing who are quote unquote more accomplished, but they're not my style. I don't give a shit. You're fucking funny. Let's do it. And that's what I would say, Betsy, is there's an opportunity right now because this thing fucking burned down. And I think in New York, a lot of us wondered if it was coming. I've been saying to people, like sometimes the LA people get back in touch with me. How's the UCB doing? I'm going, I don't know if it's going to be around in 5 years. And now it's like 6 months later.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa. So it happened fast. Sucks for you that you're on a fucking.
There was a pandemic, right? I mean, it wasn't like.
Yeah. Who saw any of this coming?
Yeah.
But Betsy, what I would say is all of you young bucks now, because a lot of people are going to go away. A lot of people are going to be like, fuck, I fought so hard. I'm not going to do it again. Or they're going to go, I'm hanging out with my fucking friends and family and realizing that that's actually pleasant and I don't want to be out every night doing this. So whichever one of you guys are left, you are effectively there when the reset button's been hit. And I think you have more opportunity than Lloyd team players, students have had in a decade and a half to actually dictate your own experience. And that's an exciting thing to me. Is the idea that now, if people want to get paid, they can go, you know what? I'll continue to take classes at UCB, but I'm going to go find other venues because they don't have a venue right now. And let's make them venues that pay performers and see if we can do it. That could change everything in New York, you know? Yeah. It could be the type of thing where you go, how many of us are left? We need to get more fucking social. We need to be, you know, in our day, there were so few people, but again, you'd be there from 7 p.m. until 1 a.m, and then you'd go to McManus, and you'd be with the same people. Maybe it needs to be. I could see a world where everything got a lot better, where people recommit to going to each other's shows in a simple way, to making sure that when you coach groups, you actually show up for their shows and give them notes. I feel like these are all things that have slipped, and right now is a chance where there's going to be some people who step up. Not because they were in the previous hierarchy, but because now it's fucking rubble, who step up and go, well, if we're still going to do this, we got to decide how. And maybe those ways can correct a lot of the things that I think a lot of people found very backwards or stifling about where things had gotten to. And I don't think, here's one thing I'll say. Having been around as long as I have and knowing the people at the top, for as fucked up as it got, fucked up as choices were made, I don't think anybody would be mad if people went right now or like, fuck it, we're going to take the ball, we're going to run with it, we're going to rebuild it our own way, and make sure it happens in a way we're more comfortable with moving forward, so that a system does not get rebuilt that we feel suffocated by. I think it's an opportunity in that sense, although it's going to be really hard to not have a theater, really hard. And somebody's got to put on a really good fucking show.
Yeah, that's what you need. You need a new ASCAT, and it can't be UCB. It's got to be a great show that is not affiliated with UCB. Like, if you're asking me how to rebuild it, I would say like, Betsy, you still there?
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Betsy, did you want to say something before I launch into an old man monologue?
No, yes, but I was also just going to ask, like, do you think it would behoove like UCB or whoever is in charge at this point to be willing to have someone in charge like an AD who they are paying to create some form of structure, since we don't have a physical space anymore in New York?
The question of what UCB will do when this is over, I don't think even they know. Like, their only option, I think, is to hire somebody to try to rebuild it for them. So that will happen in some fashion. I don't think they're coming back to New York to do it. So they're going to have to see if somebody wants to do it on their behalf. I wouldn't wait for that.
I think they need that. I don't know that you need that.
Yeah.
I think that might be a thing Will and I agree on. It's like they need that. And if that's rebuilt in a way that provides some infrastructure you can use, that's great. I don't know that you need to wait for it. I think there's other performers out there who you feel comfortable and confident with. If you got on a Lloyd team, you're clearly at least pretty good.
Yeah.
You have a chance right now to rebuild it in your own comfort zone. I would say that's probably, in my mind, more exciting than the idea of waiting to see if someone else can rebuild a version of what existed. But then again, I'm real good at giving rah-rah speeches, as Will knows.
Yeah. Well, those rah-rah speeches are great sometimes, but
Every
like,
once
what
in a
do
while,
the people
they
do
get
in New York who love improv? Like, well, what the first ingredient you need is not a venue or a space. You need a team that people want to see. Like, you need a team that is hot enough that people will change their schedule and go. I mean, this is the hard part of improv. Like, the UCB, for all of its faults by the end and problems, created a brand that people were like, oh, it's a UCB show. There were people who'd be like, I'll go see it.
take a chance on it.
Maybe more or less, depending on when you're talking about in history, but it was a brand that meant something to people, bigger than most of the teams who played at it. But in the original days, the UCB4 from Chicago showed up in New York, a city that did not like improv, and the UCB4 would do a show and people would get excited and tell each other, you got to see these guys, the Upright Citizens Brigade. This is like 1997. And they would do a show and New Yorkers would leave being like, they were great. And we don't know what improv is. We don't give a shit. But Amy, Matt, and Ian, those 4 people are fucking funny. So like, who can do that now? What the UCB had that power, and they built the UCB theater with it. Warts and all, good parts, bad parts. They built a school, they built a little empire, they built a community. You could say they built a scam at some point. I don't think that was intentional, but that maybe was what it ended up being. They got too big or whatever, but they did what they did with that. So like, if somebody gets together a team that is good enough to attract an audience, do with that what you want. You could just get your own TV show and walk away from it. You could build a theater in the vision that you have, but the ingredient that is essential is an audience. So like, I would start with there. Who gets an audience? Like Neil Casey and Anthony Tamanik in 7 or 8 years ago used to do their 2-man movie at whatever that theater was in First Avenue, where Sweet Slipper Room, yeah. And they would sell tickets and fill it up because those guys were great, and people would see it and be like, you got to see them. So it's got to be something like that. I don't think I could ever do it. That's when people say to me, hey, Will, are you going to start a theater? So no one says that to you, Gethard, right? Because everybody thinks you hate improv now.
No, but I think I'm probably more likely to do it someday.
Yeah, I know.
Than a lot of others.
I wouldn't do it because I'm like, I can't get a crowd. Will Hines can't sell tickets and have a bunch of strangers show up and see him, I don't think. And that's what you need. Like, you got to have that, there's like a triangle to start fires, like oxygen, heat, and fuel. There's some triangle of starting an improv theater, and one of them is a team that attracts a crowd. Who is that?
I would say too, keep in mind, Will brought up the UCB, but it wasn't just the UCB. After them, you had to see the Swarm. And then quickly after that, you had to see Respecto. People going, are you a Swarm guy or a Respecto person? Which one?
But they did get normal audiences in to see them. Like, I would take my normal friends to see the Swarm and they would like it. I would take them to see Harold Night. They'd be like, what is this bullshit?
And then who was it? It was like Neutrino had their own thing. People were willing to go see.
The video projects were a hot
video
shit show.
Projects. Fucking Fwand had it for a while.
So I'm sure there's newer examples of this that Gethard and I don't know because we're out of it. But like, you need something like that.
Well, can I be selfish again? Because there's a running theme of my own insecurity on this.
Let's keep it going, yeah.
I have long thought that I was on a series of those teams that were the hot ticket. Yeah. And they're the ones no one remembers. Optimist International.
Oh, yeah.
Sunshine Gang. 5 Dudes. All 3
of those
people
don't remember? 5
all
Dudes,
3 of those where you have to go see those guys. Arsenal, when we were up and running and doing those crazy shows with Peter Gwynn and me.
Everybody was right. You're kind of right. They didn't.
No one talks about my shit. No one talks about my shit.
That might be because you were one of the mythologizers.
I did. I mean, one of the reasons everyone knows Fawn's name is because I never shut the fuck up about them in my classes.
Yeah, that could be right. I mean, Optimist International, people know the people on that team. If you say Chris Gethard, Shannon O'Neill, Jack McBrayer, Seth Morris, Brian Husky. People are like, oh,
Boom,
god damn,
boom,
that team must be good.
Boom, boom, boom.
Like,
You tell them we won
but-
14 cage matches in a row when you had to go through every Herald team to accomplish that. Boom.
Yeah,
Or whatever.
Although
Or
Ruru
whatever.
fucking dwarfed you, but like five dudes, I think. I mean, in terms of numbers, Ruru did, and in LA, the numbers got crazy.
Yeah,
like,
but did you have to go through the Swarm, Respecto, and Mother back to back to back?
Ruru could have done it, but I know what you're
They
saying.
could have.
Optimus
100% absolutely would have.
Optimus was insanely good. You're right, and you're right. Optimus never really had that like mythologized legacy that other teams did, and that's interesting.
I
And they
think
were
even
like
Sunshine Gang. Nobody in this chat ever heard of
that's
fucking
true.
Sunshine Gang.
That's true. And those were those were hot shows. But there's
Turns
a lot
out-
of people. There's a lot of people who could say that though. Like Anthony King could
Oh,
say that about
absolutely.
his one-person shows. Like his
Oh,
Day
yeah.
8, Take Complete Control of Your Life is one of the best shows that's ever been in the theater. Nobody talks about that show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think Charlie Todd's one of the best improvisers there's ever been, and I don't think that dude gets lauded like he should. I think
I
he's
feel
got
like-
crazy chops, and he could like adapt to any situation, and you know. And I
The
think
sense I
people are
get is
like,
that Eric Tenoy, ever since he started working at the school, maybe students don't remember that he was regarded as like one of the ultimate
doctor.
glue guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could fix anything.
I was on a Herald team with, and this is going to be a lot of old man memories. I'll try to minimize it. But when I was in 1985 with Tenoy, sometimes after the second group game on stage, I would look at him and be like, Eric, now what?
Now, here's the one thing. Last thing I'll say to Betsy. Betsy, are you still on the line?
Sorry, Betsy.
No, this is great. Thank you.
Betsy, here's the last thing I'll say, and I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm just talking about making things fresh. I'm talking about making sure that there's motivation.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, when you go to rebuild the show, I would recommend that the
Mhm.
show not start with 20 minutes of talking to the audience. I think that became a thing that spread out around improv, at least in New York.
I like that point.
And I just don't think, we're going to go through your wallet. We're going to look at your Tinder. And I'm not throwing shade at any specific shows because I don't even know what the shows are. As I said, Tinder, I think there's probably a Tinder show. We're going to go through blank about you and just pick your brain about it endlessly before the scenes start. That it made every team feel the same. And you need to have some sense of identity and branding. So I would say whatever it is, don't build towards. I feel like that weekend team level, 90% of the shows where let's do blank with an audience member for 20
We
minutes.
are a little out of date with that, but I've had that thought about shows too.
Can't be the same thing every time.
I do remember what I liked about the shows that I've loved. This is true over all of time, is like they don't apologize for being improv shows. They come out and they just start being funny early.
Yeah.
They somehow, I mean, my favorite Swarm shows, they would just get a suggestion and the first scene would be so compelling. I feel like Respecto was good at that too. They would start with something pretty funny right away.
Boom. Go.
I have an old Respecto show on my Vimeo where they get the suggestion, what is the suggestion? I forget what it is, but they start immediately and the scene painting they do is hilarious. It's like Sheeran, Hubel, and Jackie and Owen.
Just Owen Burke.
It's
Boom,
aggressive,
boom,
and it's
boom,
the old
boom,
22nd
boom.
Street Theater.
Joke,
And so,
joke, joke,
and so
joke,
maybe
joke,
you're like,
joke.
shut up, old men, old memories. Yes, true, fair, fair, fair. But the reason I'm bringing this up is this was December of 2001 at the 22nd Street Theater. The audience was like half full. Improv sucked, and on stage was a team that you could build a theater around. So you could look at what that energy felt like, and they are not minding the rules, and they're not doing a Herald. They are doing improv. I do think Middleditch and Schwartz is an inspiration.
Yeah. Now, we've been here for an hour. Bryson is telling me I have to be responsible and say once again, thank you to anybody joining us at our Twitch channel tonight. We do stuff every Wednesday night. This Wednesday night, I got Robbie Hoffman, Will Miles. We'll be taking your calls all night long. And next Monday, May the 4th for Star Wars, Connor Ratliff, Griffin Newman are taking over our stream for 28 straight hours to watch every Star Wars movie, including the Ewoks movies. So please follow us
Why
here.
would you include the
Join our
Ewoks
Discord.
movies? You already got
That's
enough just with the
so
canon.
Funny. That was
is
second
so
one
funny
with the
they
little
threw on the
super
Ewoks
speed
movies.
creature.
It's too many.
Ah, God, it's
Too
fucking
many.
Connor though, man. It's Connor.
I
All
love
right,
it. I
Betsy,
love it.
I hope that was in any way helped. Let's go to
Very helpful. Thank
Ethan.
you.
Thank you, Betsy. Thank you so
Good
much.
luck, Betsy.
Sorry
Sorry
we
you were
talk
on a
so
team
much.
when the fucking shit fell apart. That blows.
Yeah, that's not
All right,
fair.
Let's go to Ethan. Ethan, hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
Oh, I know this guy. This is Ethan
Yeah.
Smith.
Yeah, I'm taking a class from you. How's it going?
He's a Seattle guy.
Doxed. Will just doxed you.
I just doxed you, Ethan.
That's cool. That's fine. I'm happy to be doxxed. Thanks for doing thanks for doing this, Chris and Will. I just have a two-part improv philosophy question about reacting. The first part, I was listening to you in a podcast, Gethard, and you were saying that UCB really drills initiations, and you believe that the reaction sets the game, but you weren't going to get into it. And in addition to that, I find that teachers tell students to react as themselves in real life. But I'm kind of like a shy, anxious guy, and like when I'm in like real life scenarios, I don't react in a specific way. So I guess I'm wondering, like, do you find that it's more like how you wish you could react, like something cathartic for you in the audience, like, or how you'd comedically react? Like, I guess I'm just interested in general in like reactions.
Well, I totally stand by whatever weird podcast I was on where you heard me say that. Stand by it. I think here's what I was seeing a little too much of in my tail end of teaching and coaching days was there's so much pressure on the initiation, and the initiation's invaluable, of course. But what would constantly happen is someone would come out and go, so here's how I would like to start the scene with their initiation, right? Here's where we are and who we are. And I can't even tell you how often the second line would be some version of going, well, here's why that's stupid and you're an idiot. Let's pick apart the first line.
Oh yeah. I remember
So
this was a thing.
I'm like, the second line can't cannibalize the first line. You don't have anything yet. The second line needs to be boom, boom. Now what do we got? And I would say one of the greatest compliments I ever got as an improviser, which I never saw coming, was Christina Gaussis said, I've never been in a scene with you where I don't know what the scene's about by the third line. You never get to the third line without knowing what the scene's about with you. That's because the initiation is going to share information. The reaction is going to give it fucking direction, support. Right? Like the initiation comes at you like this, and it's like, do you deflect it this way or that way or this way or that way? Which way are we going to go with it? That's the second line that defines that. So I think, yeah, you gotta have reactions that go beyond you can't dodge it. You can't just, sometimes you see people go, oh yeah, all right. Well, that's soft. And then sometimes you see people go, oh, really? Is that what you want to say right now? And it's like, well, now this whole scene is going to be the first person who spoke being completely fucking defensive of the first line. Never gets to go anywhere. It can't just be, I'll say a line and then have to justify why I said it to you over and over and over again. It's exhausting. So yeah, I think that second line is where it starts.
Ethan, you said that teachers tell you to react as yourself, right?
This seems like a veiled thing towards Will, as he is your current teacher. I
don't think that's right.
No, Will hasn't given me that note. I just had a teacher
now
who
he'll feel too awkward
told,
to give it to you. So you got your way out of it. Good job.
Yeah, a teacher repeatedly told me, like, keep reacting as yourself. Keep reacting as yourself. How would you actually react? And I'm like, this is exactly how I would react. I'm a quiet guy. When I'm in bad or weird situations, I'm not boisterous. So I wonder if it's not how I would actually react, but more like how I wish I could react or something.
Yeah, you got it in you. One of my favorite
Ethan, you are. What's that?
I'm going to give you a compliment, Will.
I know. That's why I heard it coming. I wanted to back up.
One of my greatest joys watching it is because I knew Will so well. Came up with Kevin, knew you from the start. Always a lot of fondness between us. And but you were on Monkey Dick, which is so crazy. And you always had to be the guy, like the straight lace guy.
I also didn't know how to be anything else. But yes, with a team full of maniacs.
1985.
I love that you remember this.
You know what I'm going to say.
I do. I love this. I love that team, and I love this show.
Someone says some shit. Next thing I know, you're doing a fucking handstand on a chair.
I remember the scene. Gavin Spieler initiated a group game. Hey, I wanted to thank you for being my roommate. We were all in chairs around Gavin somehow. He's like, I want to thank you guys for being my roommate. So I have someone to talk about ham with. And I don't remember how that was related to the opening. It was just Gavin being silly, and everybody was talking about ham and just said ham, ham, ham over and over again, playing trombones. And I got on the chair and did a handstand and stood up and then like flipped off it and landed on my feet. That's right. And you after the show were like, what was that? Where did that come from?
And it felt like a real evolution of you as an overall player that never went backwards.
That team made me silly in a nice way that I loved.
But that's also speaking to Ethan's point of you had that inside you. There's a part of you that when you were working your day job in a cubicle, somebody
Right.
would say something and you'd go, I'm tearing my hair out with boredom. I wish I
Yeah.
could just fucking do a somersault down the middle of the aisle. That's a
Right.
part of you that you never express.
That's absolutely true.
And
I
I
love
think
that you remember that moment, Chris.
so. And Ethan, so for you to even be going, should I be reacting how I wish I would react to stuff, already tells me you're giving yourself the note, because you're effectively telling me you got other stuff in there, which tells me that you saying I'm shy, I always react to myself shy, that's a security blanket. And by telling me, should I react how I want to react, you're hanging onto the security blanket a little too hard, Ethan. Not trying to be harsh.
Ethan, you're terrific, and you're doing great at improv. And I love that you have that question. Did you want to tell Chris thanks before I started talking? You were about to say something.
You don't have to force it.
No,
Thank you. He may have
that's
hated
that's
what I
really
said.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrific.
I do think that's an interesting note, and I've said it to a lot of people. What would you say? React as yourself. But it's one of those like improv teaching things, which is like it's not literally react as yourself. That's just a way that tricks some people into being more authentic than they were being. It just means be as authentic and committed as you are in your real life. Your actual personality is irrelevant. It's just like bring your emotional intelligence into the scene. However you get there. For some people, that is acting like themselves. That triggers an authentic moment. But some people, ironically, they have to get out of their head as themselves to act authentically. But we just want stuff to not feel like bullshit. I was coaching Shrek this weekend, this Lloyd team. I had a great time, and they were doing good scenes right away. I do not give my credit to myself at all for this, but I said, okay, we did a bunch of scenes, and I was like, you had great games. They didn't feel real to me. They felt like improvisers following the rules, which, hey, that's still a skill. They're like, okay. Then they did a bunch of scenes. We were like crying, laughing. And to me, the difference was there was more emotional authenticity in the second batch. But sometimes as a teacher, I don't know how to like get that out of people. It's a different sort of saying for each different person. I don't know.
Last thing I'll say on this, Ethan, before we move on to our next call, and I thank you for your call, is one thing I've always been that I really stand by heart is that the things that happen in your scenes don't need to be realistic, but they do need to be believable. And I think that might help you a lot if you're telling me that sometimes your own sense of shyness is holding you back, in the sense of you can do stuff that's outlandish and silly and bizarre, which might be really out of your comfort zone. Doesn't need to be realistic, but if you invest who you are into it, it will become believable. You could be playing some, this is going to be a dumb example, but it's fucking improv, right? Of like, you could be playing some fucking stegosaurus sitting here talking with the Tyrannosaurus Rex about how there's not enough good fucking low-hanging trees to eat, whatever dumb thing you initiate. And that might feel uncomfortable for someone who's shy to do something that silly. But if the stegosaurus gives as much of a shit about its life as you give about yours, you're going to find that way to overcome your own shyness and inject the other parts of your personality, because you're going to kind of drag yourself out of your own comfort zone. So that's another thing I would say. Anyway, thank you so much, Ethan, for the call.
Yeah, Ethan.
There's one person.
Question. Thank you.
Listen, there's one person who's waiting to call, and this is going to, I hope this doesn't sound insensitive, but their name has a racial slur in it. And I have a feeling that you picked that maybe because you have a certain ethnic background, but I don't know if that's true, and I'm not going to call on that name. So if you want to change your name and come back, then we can talk, but I'm not saying that. That's wild. You see where I'm going with this. Let's go to who's been waiting the longest? Sonderseed, Bryson? Let's go to Sonderseed. Yep. How do I know who's been waiting the longest? Is it the people on the bottom?
No, I believe that's all alphabetical.
Also, we're an hour and 12 minutes in, and Bryson, and I thank Bryson. Bryson organizes this whole Twitch stream. He's the reason we know how to connect it to the Discord and the calls. I do feel like I saw you doze off at one point recently. True or false?
Which I don't blame you.
I gotta check we're going out to places.
Take a nap. For God's
I'm not even talking into a microphone. I'm looking at things.
Take a nap. I would.
And remember, everybody, if you want to call in, you join the Discord. It's one of those things that you're like, oh, I got to join another thing. It's actually pretty easy. And our Discord has like well over 1,000 people in it at this point, and they're all stereotypically, as my fans tend to be, very nice people. Saunderseed, welcome. Talking improv with old Will Hines. This is a very enjoyable night in my life.
Me too.
I think it's enjoyable for us as well. Hi guys, thanks for doing this.
Hi Saunderseed.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
yeah, we can
yes,
hear you.
we can.
Yes.
If you can see me,
Okay, great.
I'm giving you a thumbs up. You can just
Okay,
talk.
I turned off the chat because I was worried about, or the stream because I was worried about my connection because I'm calling in from Colombia. And I wanted to say I took a workshop, one of Will's workshops with Ethan weeks
Yeah, this is
ago, and I
Alejandro.
remember thinking, yeah, hi Will.
You just got doxxed,
You
Alejandro. I'm
doxed
doxing
me as
people.
well.
Yeah.
You just doxed
I'm
me as
doxing
well.
people left and right.
Will's ruthless.
And I remember thinking about Ethan. I was like, damn, he's in Seattle. I'm bummed that I don't get to improvise with that dude. Like, once this is all
More information on Ethan. Everybody remember, we know his last name is Smith. He lives in Seattle. Next caller has to say his home address. Caller after that, social security number. Okay, Alejandro, continue.
Oh boy. Yeah, but my question is, so I did UCB New York for a while, and then I came back home to Columbia, and I've been trying to like sort of start something, not necessarily an improv theater, but kind of get an improv operation going. I've really been trying to tap into that culture of early UCB and into that kind of like undergroundy thing that made people want to like just do their absolute best artistically. So my question to you guys, it's like, I'm never going to have access to the kind of people and the kind of resources and backgrounds and things like that New York does. Like there is a certain kind of people that dedicates themselves to the arts in New York that is, you know, the talent pool is so exquisite. However, I think there are ways of like mimicking that culture and that environment. Like what would you point to that are things that are replicable about that early years community? You would say if you want people to feel a sense of belonging around this theater or a sense that they want to, you know, make this place their home and their tribe and their artistic niche, how would you go about recreating that?
I got some ideas.
Maybe I'll go first because you're going to be better than me, Gethard. So why don't I go first and then you can bring in the big finish.
You are 27.5 times better than me at this.
I'm more beloved and more liked, but I'm not better. I'm more popular and loved, but I think you are of a higher quality analyzer.
No, I think you are also very much in practice and you are always one of the best. Okay, you go first.
I love that. Thank you, Chris. To try to replicate that, I would say, because also my answer is going to be less pithy than Gethard, but I would say the word you want is an apprentice system. What I dislike about current improv theaters is there's too many rules and too much like right and wrong, and it got too formulaic. I mean, with the best of intentions. And old school, what I miss most about small theaters is an apprentice system, people doing it on stage, and then the next day they teach a class, and they are just working off what they learned the day before. And it's like, I'm going to tell you how to practically do this. And we're not worried about Phil Jackson. I'm going to talk with
Phil Jackson
right
there?
now. Yeah.
Oh shit.
One of the great performers.
We're doing
coaches,
an improv
teachers.
deep dive.
We're talking about improv all night, Phil.
Hang on. He can't hear you. Hang on.
What's going on, y'all?
Can you hear
Phil,
me?
we're doing a big talk with everybody about improv. I'm actually talking about improv.
That's amazing. You're talking about improv. That's
see, he knows that you left it behind too. It's not just me.
But I'm getting all hyped up, giving lessons, talking about some of these old speeches I used to give.
Yeah.
He just gave a hard note to some kid in Seattle out of nowhere. He just told the kid to stop, get out of his comfort zone.
Well, he's saying he's shy, and how can he react? If he's supposed to react as himself, how is he gonna? He's always gonna react shy, and then he's going, should I react how I wish I could react? Well, it's like, well, you're giving yourself the no. If you have those things in you that you're wishing, yeah, now's the time to fucking do them. Especially if you feel like the other thing's holding you back. No time like the present. For anyone who doesn't know, Phil and I used to be roommates, and we would stay up literally all night long talking about comedy and also sort of plans for world domination. We often have said that we lived together, what, a year and a half, 2 years?
Yeah, right around that.
This is another way that I've beaten you because I've lived with Phil.
You now live with Phil Jackson. But we have said that looking back on it, and we didn't know this at the time, but my job was to get you to quit your advertising job. Your job was to keep me alive. Your job was to keep me living.
I think we did a good job of both of those things.
We did. We certainly did.
That is shouting out your episode of Insecure. Phil's episode of Insecure last night was unreal.
Oh man, thank you so much.
Also, someone's saying Phil was by far my favorite part of TCGS, which is kind of a harsh thing to say when I did host the show. So. Now, Phil, how would you feel about this? There's the like UCB New York memories.
Alejandro,
like,
we're gonna get back to you in a second. Stay on.
Sorry, unexpected celebrity appearance. Everybody, there's this memories Facebook group going. It's very nice, and there's like a Will Hines appreciation thread.
Yeah.
And when I checked right before this, I had 112 comments.
Yeah.
And then there was a Gethard appreciation thread. Finelli started. It has 4 comments, 2 of them by Don.
Okay.
It's a magic box of Gethard thread, not a Gethard thread. I think that's
But-
one reason why.
Okay.
But listen, there's no way around it. Mathematically, it's been proven that in the New York improv community, Will is 27.5 times more popular than I am.
You got to put the work in, man. You got to put the work in.
I mean, but I will say, you did walk away from it. You know what I mean?
You
quit.
Will
You quit,
You
babe.
can't have it both ways.
I'm holding the torch now.
But you know the legacy. You know the legacy continues, Chris.
It's true. Well, you know what else? Here's another thing I'll say. Here's another thing. Because, Will, you keep pounding the pavement. One thing I will say is a lot of the people who I think they're too busy now, man, because I got them there. I had nothing to do with it except just being able to. Phil, because the last class I ever taught was parentheses, and you were in it, and I feel like I was more of like like treating it more like a platoon leader than a hierarchical, however it's a hierarchical teacher.
That thing felt like a really, really big experiment in a cool way. I will say, I think we were roommates while that was happening, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like we had a talk where it was like, let's make sure that this isn't weird. Like I'm gonna give you the notes that I need to give you, and I was like, you know, especially at the time, I was just like, I was just trying to get better at improv and really kind of knee deep in it. But I will say, any class I took, I think I was the most heady in parentheses than
That was hard. People cried.
You know what I mean?
There was one time in that class, I believe, where
second. Sorry, Cypher Sounds is giving you a shout out.
Hey, what up, Cypher?
Phil did the best move in any improv, my favorite improv move ever, somewhere down here.
Look at that. I think many people have that story. Parentheses got so weird that before the class even technically started, I went and self-reported myself to you, Will. Do you remember? Because Murph sent that email,
Yes.
Phil. You remember that fucking email?
Yes.
And then I had to go to Will and be like, hey, so this thing happened. So anybody who's a Gethard Show fan in this chat, tangent, you know Murph. Now, Murph took this class. You had to apply to this class. None of us, it was 27 people. Everybody knew each other except nobody knew Josh Sharp. Nobody knew Murph. And he just went by Murph. And we had these email assignments before the class started. And they were really pretty interesting. And people were like really doing some very fucking cool stuff. And then he sent an email that was so beyond the pale.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Everyone was terrified. Like, who the fuck is this guy? And then he shows up in a white shirt and a black tie, like the fucking Reservoir Dogs. And the email was so over the line inappropriate. And it was him fulfilling an assignment I gave. And I had to go to Will Hines and say, I think I need to report myself for something that happened.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Anyway.
That class was great, though. I mean,
and Phil, you still improvise pretty regularly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, up until all this madness, but yeah, I was doing ASCAP pretty much weekly and
Facebook,
playing with the Facebook guys. Those guys are dope, and also Tuesday Club, a little less frequently because the time is hard when I'm in a writer's room because it's like an earlier show. But
Phil, basic level, 1 or 2 sentences. What makes you still love it?
I love being dramatic on stage. I feel like it's the opposite of what like how I operate as a person. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like in real life, you're chill and even keel.
Most laid back.
Like, yeah, I don't think I don't run. I'm not like angry and like not letting it out. But I think you get to. I love playing a range of emotions. I just love it so much. I think it's just being on stage feels great. I mean, you were saying about that kid who you gave that note to, like that's what still interests me.
That's you.
The fact that I can hop on stage and like just be something else and deliver it with an energy that I would never do in real life, but on stage it's exactly what's needed or what feels good. That's what still excites me about. That's what I miss about it right now, for sure.
Here's a story that sums up when you're saying like I'm not that on stage and Will's going, yeah, you're laid back. Here's a story about us living together that explains everything about where we were both at in 2012, right? That's when we lived together.
Yes.
So I lived on the bottom floor in the basement. Phil lived upstairs. We would often powwow upstairs. I come running upstairs one day, wild-eyed, and I'm going, Phil, I just shit a bunch of fucking blood out, man. I just shit fucking blood everywhere, man. I don't know what's going on. And you just calmly looked at me and you went, well, I think it's probably time to go to the doctor.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, you probably gotta get to the doctor, my guy.
What would you say?
I think that's what it was. You got to go to the doctor, my guy. I believe that may be the actual quote. That's everything about 2012 you need to know in a nutshell.
Yeah, I was like, I'll pull up with you if you.
I mean,
if you need me
it's a
to.
good improv scene. That sounds like a good improv scene. I love it.
Okay, so Will was just answering. Alejandro,
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah.
Colombia.
Dragged you
Great
into
seeing you, Will. Phil, what a nice surprise. So Alejandro, Colombia, trying to start a new scene. What should be done to make sure that scene is inclusive and in the spirit of the early days that you and I get so nostalgic for?
Don't bullshit people when you teach them. Teach them how it works for real. Don't teach them the rules. Teach them how it works. That's what I'm gonna say. Like it should feel like you're not building a system. You're building like a culture of goodness, a culture of quality, meritocracy, not like rules being followed. That's the advantage of a small system. You don't need the rules to hold it together because you'd all know each other. So you can just focus on what's good. Doesn't mean you have to be an asshole about it. But once UCB became thousands and thousands and thousands of people, it's like, you got to check these 4 boxes to go to the next level because we have no other way to manage this. But when it's 100 people, it could just be like, let's get in the room and figure out what's good.
I would say something that I think is 100% an extension of that, which is allow anybody to come through the front door. And as long as they are not a problematic person making other people feel uncomfortable, be open to them. Because it's so funny, because I think the reputation of UCB New York now at the end of the days is that it was very exclusionary. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. But if you think back to the early days, it wasn't just like Alejandro, you're saying like, well, I know I can't gather the people of the caliber that were there. And it's like, well, Rob Corddry was a trained actor and so fucking funny. Like had his equity card, of course. Not going to get many Rob Corddrys walking through the door. But we also had that guy, Frank, who was a professional clown and designed his own board game called Devil's Chess. That guy was allowed to hang out too. Like, you know, we had the early Rob Hubel, Rob Riggle. Sure. We also had a guy who Will was on teams with for years, who was a lawyer, who one day just told himself, if I don't change my life right now, I'm never going to do it. And I hate it. Picked up a phone, called UCB, and then called a trapeze school, signed up for both classes, trapeze and improv, and then went on to be on teams for years.
Yeah.
Because he was masterful at game, even though, and I love him to death.
Me too.
Probably one of the most insanely non-stage worthy, and I won't say stage worthy because it's not a matter of worth, of like his stage presence was antithetical to what you would think is necessary to succeed as a comedic performer, and yet he crushed. You had Violet Crumbine, who was had gone, I think, to like the experimental theater school at NYU. I was on teams with her, and she was so trippy and so out there, and used to do bits where she'd fill a surgical glove with water and red food dye and swing it above her head. Like, sure, you had like Gelman and Daly showing up from the North Carolina School of the Arts, but then you also had, not to put myself on it, like you could also have like a 20-year-old kid driving in from New Jersey. There was well before I got there was a 16-year-old kid on teams. Matt Kunkus was his name.
Yeah, Matt Hammer Kunkus.
Never saw him perform, but it's like you could have, you could have Jack McBrayer on stage, or you could have the 16-year-old kid. As long as they work hard and as long as they contribute, let them hang out. I think it'll go a long way.
Like I said, Gethard's more pithy and quotable, but my advice is practical. Principles, not rules.
Pithy is a bad thing, isn't it? Pithy is a bad adjective.
I mean pithy to be like quotable and like, like a nice compact little phrase that resonates and you carry around with you. And I mean it as a good way. I mean it like the way like good improv mantras are pithy. Maybe I'm using the word wrong, but I mean like inspiring nuggets. I don't know, like, but good. I mean it well.
I hope that answered your question, Alejandro. Sorry that the Phil Jackson diversion put you sitting on the line for so long awkwardly, but you know what? I think it was worth it because Phil's the best. Let's go to Rio197. It's fun to do this as a call-in show, right, Will?
I love it. Yeah, their questions are more interesting than what we would just talk about the old days nonstop.
Yeah, and who cares? All right, Rio, how can we help? Rio197.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Hi.
How's it going?
Hi. My shirt's unbuttoned. Hello.
Oh, okay. There's a huge delay here.
Oh,
Hey,
okay,
pretty
yes,
good,
it's a big
thanks.
lag.
Yeah, my
That's okay.
question is after
Rio,
After what?
Rio, listen to us on Discord, not on
after
Twitch.
a while, how do you stay fresh, or how do you
Rio, you're cutting in and out. I got the sense you're asking after you've been doing it a while, how do you stay fresh? How do you stay inspired? Is that the gist of the question?
Yes, pretty much. Yeah, a bit of a background. 2 years ago, I got into a house team, a Herald team. The first half of that year, I felt good about it, but then the second half, everything is just dry. I felt devoid of ideas. I felt like, oh, nothing's going, my way. I initiated way less than I was before. So yeah, that's pretty much it. How do you refuel yourself? How do you stay fresh?
I think one thing people forget, especially as you get thrown into the fire and improv's so addictive, and now you've been rewarded with a slot on a house team you've been chasing, is they pour every ounce of themselves and their energy into improv, and they forget to go live real life. And you run out of shit to talk about when the only thing you consume yourself with is improv. You can't do improv scenes about how you do improv. Who the fuck cares? So you got to go out, see movies, and hang out with people, and catch up with friends who have nothing to do with this, and fucking go get in a fucking bar fight or something. Like I say that semi-facetiously, but the point is, like, the more real life you can live, the more fuel you put back in the tank. I think. Will, anything to add to that?
I love that advice. And I think there's also a lot of shoulds come into play when you're on Herald Night. You worry about doing it right, and you're getting notes all the time, and you need to loosen up somehow. And I think Chris's advice will also help make Herald Night feel a little smaller. And so you'll swing a little more freely. Like, you've probably got great instincts, let those instincts out. But I like Chris's advice to energize yourself. I think that's definitely important.
All right, Rio. Thank you for
Rio.
the question. I hope it helps. The other thing I'll say, Rio, it happens to literally everyone at some point. It happens to everyone where you lose steam, lose enthusiasm, where you're like, I don't know what the fuck to talk about. I'm doing the same scenes over and over again. It happens to everyone. Comes and goes. The initial adrenaline rush of getting on the team wears off. You realize how much work it is. Yeah, it's going to be less fun for a while. But that's okay. You'll get it back. I promise you'll get it back. If you're on a Discord chat calling into a Twitch stream to get advice on it, you are certainly dedicated enough. You'll get it back. Let's go to Miel. Miel, welcome back to this Discord chat. We're talking improv with Will Hines. Miel, what's up?
What's up?
Hey, what's up? Nice to see you guys, Chris Gethard and friend. So I am in Minneapolis. I'm interested in getting into the comedy scene here, but the problem in where I live is like it's very male dominated. And especially this scene in Minneapolis, like Acme is great, but it's really white male dominated, and they're notoriously like cagey towards outsiders. So I'm wondering, like, I would love to get on an improv team, but I'm not going to pay like a bunch of money to be dismissed by some random Midwest dude. You know what I'm saying? And I love the Discord because it allows me to do like an hour-long improv show every week before, CGP, and create really great animations with my friends and have you guys all as voice actors, and that's amazing. But I'd really love to get into something local to get more into the scene and be more connected.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that a lot of like comedy legend teams meet on their improv teams, and then go on to build like large careers together. I'm just kind of wondering, like, I don't know, is there such thing as guerrilla improv? Can I start my own scene here? Should I take over Acme Comedy Club?
I like that attitude.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly that's certainly what I always shout about. First of all, I'll say too, I go and do stand up at Acme. I've done it twice now, and it's easily one of my favorite clubs in America. That being said, I am a white dude, so I'm probably not noticing the same systemic oppression that you are. But it's been great it's a well-run club. I'll say that they treat the comics right. I think start your own thing. I also think there's something to be said for. If you feel like it's dominated by opinions and you don't really care to be boxed out by the opinions of others, I don't want you to waste your time and certainly don't waste your money. There's something to be said for the best thing you can do is go in and be fucking funnier than those guys. Because I guarantee that if there's guys trying to swing their fucking weight around to protect their scene, they're scared. And if they're scared, it's because they're not as funny as they pretend to be. So go in and kick the shit out of them and be unquestionable. And don't fucking forget your history with improv, which is that the original rules of yes and don't get in too many fights, all that bullshit. They were called the kitchen sink rules because they were written by a few improvisers sitting in the kitchen together. And you know who the primary author of those was Elaine May, a woman. So these guys don't have any fucking claims over the propriety of this shit because they're the first genius who actually fucking managed to verbalize it and put it down on paper was Elaine May. So it doesn't belong to them. So also go in and just be like, I'm fucking funnier than you. So if you want to if you want to have the best shit in town, you better make me a part of it, motherfucker.
Oh man, that's totally my attitude in life with everything. So
good. Yeah, I mean, you sound like we'd be friends. Me 5 years ago, I've really lost my fire on that. Well, I don't know what to be mad about anymore.
You'll find it. I have faith in you.
Thank you so much. Any other advice from me out?
I don't think so. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you. Good luck.
Cool. Not interested in Will Hines' opinions. I love that.
Don't have any. I'm in every major demographic that's ever been. I don't know what it's like to be.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And dude, I fucking think back and I'm like, I was in so many Harold auditions where it was me, Mulaney, Billy, and Delaney. That sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks.
It wasn't even on anybody's radar. I think that was weird.
I mean, it was 15, 16, 17 years ago.
Yeah.
That fucking sucks, though. No wonder it stayed the way it did for so long. Gotta fucking admit it to ourselves, at least, right? At least.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should we go to? I think we got to go there.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Now, Will, there's this guy. He's been a big part of the Chris Gethard Presents show. He started out playing a bit where Christy Chell asked him to play Jesus, and she called him Sky Daddy. And ever since, he's been embraced as Sky Daddy in this community. Welcome, Sky Daddy. How are you? Sky Daddy. Talk to me, my sweet Sky Daddy.
Is it when people come on Twitch and not Discord that's the problem? They gotta.
I don't know, because Sky Daddy's done this before.
Sky Daddy knows what's up.
Yeah, we can put Sky Daddy back in the queue and we'll jump back to Sky Daddy. Oh, okay. Let's go to the fucking Terry Gross of this Discord. Goddamn. Okay. Yeah. Bryson's already patching her through. This is Emily Pineapple, Will Hines, named after the Vacation Jason song that defines his love interest as Emily Pineapple. I'm on air. You may remember. Emily comes up with these questions. You'd think you're talking to fucking Glenn Green, like a fucking journalist out here.
Yeah.
What do you got for us, Emily?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. I have a question. This time it's a little bit self-centered, I suppose. You mentioned earlier about when you were younger being, I'm sorry, this was Chris, mentioned earlier about being a better coach than you were performer when you were early on in your career. And I'm curious, as someone, I run like the improv club for my community college, And I've sort of put myself in the position of like mentoring people who are much younger than me and look up to me and have the same amount of experience as I do. And so it's like, what right do I have to be a coach when I not only have not performed as much, but hate performing, but love improv more as a theoretical thing, as a tool for theater, as a psychological thing, and sort of using it in the way that mostly Viola Spolin talked about, because she wrote a manual, so I follow the manual. Yeah, like how do you reconcile that? Should I be as self-conscious about my non-desire to perform, but still feeling like I have watched enough improv and watched enough comedy and studied it enough to really give advice?
You're describing everyone's dream. Someone who loves it and wants to facilitate it happening, and they want none of the stage time or glory.
Yeah.
You get to have all the glory, but I'll do all the fucking logistics and give you all the advice. That's everybody's dream. I'll also say you'd be very interested, I think, in studying the track of Armando Diaz, because Armando is legendarily, I think, one of the better improv teachers there's ever been.
Yeah.
He's my level 3 teacher at UCB, broke off, co-founded the Pit, founded the Magnet. Great teacher. Never performs. Used to perform in Chicago. I don't know if he ever performed in New York, but he's taught generations.
He would do a scene now and then, and it would be like, it would get around. He'd be like, Armando did a scene last night or whatever, or something. But yeah, great teacher.
Yeah, great teacher.
I know Kevin Mullaney's a good performer too, but Kevin Mullaney's a guy that his biggest impact was probably as an organizer and a facilitator. And a teacher.
Yeah, I think he'd perform when he felt like it, and then have long stretches where he was completely content to not be performing, but still love teaching. So yeah, Emily, I would say like don't get self-conscious about that, because 100% anyone smart wants that person involved in the artistic movement. The person who's like, I don't want any of the glory, but I'm gonna be here and fucking help.
Write a book and I'll read it. Write a book and I will read it. Write a book and send me the link and I'll buy it. That's a promise.
Yeah.
I'll buy it and read it. I'm already interested.
Someone just said, I saw Armando do a set at the Magnet a few months ago.
All right.
Fair. But the point stands that
he's generally,
to me.
He's not a big performer. He doesn't perform that often.
No, it's never been.
He was like the most sought after teacher at UCB for a long time.
For years and years and years. You wanted him to like you. Gave me a very harsh note.
What was it?
I've told you this one.
More like Will Hines, or what do you say?
No, we were when we first were allowed to open the door on walk-ons and tag-outs.
Yeah.
In Armando's class, and
needless to say,
a very manic 21-year-old Chris Gethard really was into this idea. And I once went to stand up from the seats at the 22nd Street Theater, because he would be in the seats, and went to stand up, and he reached over. He was close enough to touch me and put his hand on my shoulder and said, Chris, improv works better if you give other people a chance once in a while. And just guided me back down into my seat.
Yeah.
Probably the second harshest note I got after Andy Secunda, who made me cry. Andy Secunda made me cry. Secunda, call in. Join the Discord and call in.
Yeah, call in. We know you want to say something. Give us a call. Join the
Emily,
Discord.
does that help? I think you're on the right track. I think people should value it. Just don't get, as long as it doesn't come off as condescending, everyone's going to appreciate that.
Cool. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. And I really love everything that you are both creating and facilitating.
Thank you.
And you should get Will's book. Will's book is great. Everyone, if you like improv, get Will's book. He published it himself, and it's great.
Ooh.
Thank you. I'm proud of it. Yeah.
I'm here in Sky Daddy. Also, just so you know, Emily Pineapple and Forrest, because you were on this thing, Will.
Yeah.
They're going to either make some fan art or a podcast about you where you're going to be sitting here going, how the fuck did they find all that shit out about me?
Do it. I love it. I love the attention. Dig deep.
It's like a Nardwuar level deep dive into people's lives. I hear Sky Daddy is back. Sky Daddy, hello.
Sky Daddy, you there?
Sky Daddy, come in.
Yeah.
Yes, Sky Daddy, we hear you.
What's up?
Oh yeah. How y'all doing?
Doing good.
Good. Yeah.
You're my
Thank you, Sky Daddy.
Man, I do love improv. I love stand-up first though. And also, I've heard of Will Hines, but I thought he was a big black man because that sounds like a big black man name. My name
It does sound
Will
like that.
Hines.
It does sound like a big black man. My dad's name is Jerome Hines, and I was Willie when I was a kid. So Jerome and Willie Hines, that does not sound like two white dudes.
Yeah, it sounds like you're playing dice somewhere.
Yeah.
But on a serious note, I mean, I love improv, and like I said, I love stand-up first. And improv is a great tool for stand-up. But people seem like they really like me doing improv more. But as we said earlier, there's no real avenue for finances in improv like that. And, you know, I'm a single dad out here with a 12-year-old who's way funnier than me. So, I mean, like, how do you guys incorporate, or Chris, how do you incorporate like your improv into your stand-up? And Will, and also, no offense, I'm one of those people who I didn't find out about improv until my late 30s because I'm a man of color and we don't have money to spend on improv stuff. So it was for me like an experience, like when I first saw it. And when I saw it done really well, that's when I was like, okay, because I do hip hop improv, which is people are rapping and stuff, and I'm a hype man. But I also jump in on scenes, which make it fun for me. Like, because I mean, I love improv, but how do you guys use it in your daily life or in your stand up or, you know, and in teaching? Like, I don't know.
Well, the first thing I'll say is when you're going, I'm a single dad, and that's the problem with charging $450 for classes, and you have to take 4 or 5 of them before you're allowed to audition for stage time. That's a problem. It's a big problem.
Yeah. So I was lucky to get a diversity scholarship a couple of times, but then, you know, life came in the way, and I work full time, so it was really hard for me. Because like, hey, I need to take a class on Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon so I can take the class, still get home and take care of my little one. So, and you know, I see like all these guys and women are super funny and they have the time to do this, and I appreciate them and I know they're super funny. And when I talk to them, all I tell them is, guys, if you live with your parents, you're doing what you need to do. Just have fun, get through it quick. Don't take your time and I'm 43 now. You know, I ain't got no time to be playing games with y'all. I need give me $20, you know, or something. But I mean, I just want to know, like, I heard Will says he coaches and I know you do stand up, but like, how do you guys use it in your daily lives outside of just, you know, on stage?
I would say, I mean, as far as stand up goes, the one thing I feel more comfortable with than I think many people do is hecklers. Like, I don't encourage hecklers and I never want hecklers, but when they come up, I am unfazed because I just feel like, all right, all my instincts about how to handle a person, same thing, Beautiful Anonymous, I'm just sitting there going like, all right, I'm the straight man and let's improvise. And this person doesn't know they're improvising, but I'm just really trying to listen and guide it and heighten the things that seem important. So I think in my other creative work, it has proven pretty valuable. As far as real life, I think at the end of the day, it's just made me, I think, sort of an empathetic human being, and it taught me to kind of want to listen more than I talk.
Yeah,
I would say that. Will, how about you?
I've been doing stand up a lot over the last year, and I'm quite amateurish at it, but I will say that in my much more limited experience than you two guys, yeah, it's crowd work and reading the room. I probably have those muscles built a bit bigger than other new stand-ups do. I'm just used to really tuning into the room to try to sense what they want next, and I think I'm pretty good at that. And when I have had crowd work happen naturally or hecklers, I think I'm way better at it. I all of a sudden jump up a level of ability in stand-up because like, oh, this is just improv. So my material is weak as shit, and my performance is often bad. But when it comes time to reacting in the moment, I can swing pretty hard. You know what I mean? And so that, you know, crowd work, I guess, is the short answer for that. And in real life, yeah, improv is a sensibility. It's like listening, saying yes, considering other options, being very sensitive in a conversation to what the other person is looking for. Oh, they want me to ask them a question now. Oh, they want me to ask about that. Oh, they want me to thank them. I don't know. It's like, I do think I got better just at dealing with people because of it. So I think that's something that helps me every day.
All right, Sky Daddy. I want to go to our next caller.
Thank you, Sky Daddy.
Their name is just mysterious. I want to know what's going on with Group 2. Group 2, welcome to the show. Group 2, hello.
Hello. I had a very, oh no. All right, I thought I paused that. All right, am I on?
Yes, you're on.
Yes, you're on. Yeah.
Wonderful. I had a very specific question for Will.
All right, I'm ready. Somebody
You are from Danbury, correct?
I was what? Danbury, yes.
Yeah, so I'm also from Danbury.
Nice.
And growing up, I really didn't recognize any kind of there was some music scene, but there definitely wasn't anything like comedy or community theater going on, other than a very small amount. So I guess I'm wondering, do you feel that growing up in Danbury or lent anything to your career? Do you feel like you got started there in any sense?
No, there was nothing in Danbury. My God, no, it was a hindrance and a huge obstacle. Only in that when the complete lack of it made me hungry for, when I did discover the UCB theater, it was like, I think I appreciated what a precious kingdom it was, because I'd come from such a desert of lack of culture and comedy. I mean, there was some, like you said, there was a small music scene in Danbury, and there was like cool record stores and stuff like Trash American Style. But a
lot of that stuff is gone, unfortunately.
Okay, well, there was little like there was little incidences of counterculture that were kind of cool, and WXCI was a radio station I liked, but pretty much
I love that station.
It was like there was nothing, and comedy-wise, there was zero. The town had no sense of humor. It was a drag. Even just going to New Haven or up to Hartford, I would feel more of a sense of humor bubbling up, but none in Danbury. I think Danbury's in that weird middle ground of too close to the rich people, but not rich, but not poor enough to be sort of like have some culture that way. So it was kind of like a dead zone. It was like a Wes Anderson movie without the art direction. That's what I thought Danbury.
Oh my God.
I am shocked personally that it took 1 hour and 50 minutes for our first question about Danbury, Connecticut. Shocked.
I was ready for it.
Group 2, any follow-ups? Any other
Thank you, Danbury.
Any other small cities in Connecticut you'd like to talk about?
This is connected to Danbury. I'm sitting here with my weird New York book.
Yes.
Have you heard of the frog people of Danbury?
Not only have I heard about the frog people, I wrote an article about the frog people for Weird New England. And guess who I interviewed it for it? Will Hines was one of the people, and Curtis Gwynn. And Curtis Gwynn knew a lot about the frog people. Curtis Gwynn knew a lot about the frog people.
I knew very little about that stuff. I knew the Jesus tree stuff.
Yeah, you gave me a lot on the Jesus tree, but I feel like also like Curtis, who's such a storyteller, was like, oh, the frog people. This and that.
Yeah. He was gravitating. I was a skeptic so young that I probably turned off when that info came around.
You also, if I remember right, we're like, at the end of the day, I think maybe they're just like a put upon family with a lot of problems.
Right. I sometimes had trouble getting into the story of something when I'm like, I just feel bad for these people and not into like making them into a myth for something.
Curtis Gwynn has a story about seeing a frog person while shopping in the middle of the night at a 24-hour supermarket. And in typical Curtis fashion, it's completely insane.
I mean, that dude would go out and buy a bagel and come back with a better story than I've had happen in the last 10 years.
Oh my God. Group 2, anything else you want to talk about? We've talked about the artistic culture of Danbury, Connecticut, the urban legends of Danbury. What else do we need for this Danbury conversation to keep going?
Oh, Jesus. Do you have a huge resentment towards Ridgefield and Darien? Was it as poor and Hispanic when you were in Danbury as it is now?
Yes. I remember it being more Cambodian. I remember there was like a big Cambodian Vietnamese population in Danbury when I was there. That was sort of like what separated us from the lily white rich towns. But I worked for 2 years in Ridgefield at the Ridgefield Press newspaper. when I first got out of college, and I actually loved those people a great deal, but Ridgefield was not my style other than that.
Okay, Ridgefield, Darien, Frog People, the Artistic Merit of Danbury. What else, Group 2?
I'll go. Well, I also want to know, what is Jesus Street? I've never heard of this.
The Jesus tree. There's a tree on old
it's
old
been
Joe
cut down.
Hill or something. Oh, okay. There was a tree on I forgot the name of the road. It's like Old Hill Road or Old Tree Hill or something, right next to Mill Plain Road. You could take a right off Mill Plain and go along this kind of Joe Hill. Maybe that's the street. But there was a tree that looked like Jesus being crucified, and it was supposed to be haunted by a girl who had died on prom night years before.
I love it.
And we would go look at it at night and be scared. And there was like 12 trees on either side. They were like the apostles.
Wow, that's amazing.
Kind of. We were sort of stretching for something interesting in our town.
One more real quick Danbury thing. There is, next to the high school, like a quarter mile away, there's a wooden fence in front of some woods. If you hop over the wooden fence and walk a half mile, there's an abandoned, like planned community, and there's cars from like and empty foundations, like sewer entrances and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the extent of how Danbury is interesting.
Yeah, I never knew about that place.
Oh, you gotta love it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Group 2. That was thank you.
Thank you, Group 2.
All right, let's go to Fig. We got Fig on the line. Fig, what small city in the New England region do you want to talk about?
Just gotta unmute yourself, Fig.
Yeah, Fig, you just gotta unmute your mic and then we're good to go. Fig going once, going twice. We'll put you back in the queue. We're not giving up on you. Let's go to Danny Grace. Will, how you holding up? Do you want to quit on this yet? It's almost 2 hours.
No way, man. I'm not. You're gonna be the one who stops, not me.
Ah, fuck. Why'd you say that? I got to interview. If you need Kevin Nash and D'Lo Brown tomorrow.
If you need me to stop, I'll stop.
Oh man, I might need to crap out. We all know that
we're hitting the 2 hour mark. That's pretty honorable place to tap out.
I do know that a number of years ago, if you said to me, "You will crap out first," we would be on this thing until 6:30 in the morning. That's how
I know.
Relationship went.
I don't mind crapping out at 2 hours. I feel like that's pretty legit.
No, we have some callers.
A good improviser is knowing when to edit.
Why don't we try to speed round through some calls?
Oh, let's do it. I'm
seeing a bunch left in the queue. So if you want to call, get on the Discord right now. We're going to try to speed round through a bunch of them.
Let's do it.
Let's go to Danny Grace. Danny, hello.
Hello. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes. What's up?
Hi, Danny.
Hi. I want to know your opinion on why when we talk about UCB, we always kind of gravitate towards talking about improv. I love improv. I was on a Herald team. I hosted Indie Cage Match at UCB. I talk about it all day. I think that Hartney did really cool things with like characters at the theater. And I know that Christine Bullen was very into characters as well. And I guess I'm just curious, like your thoughts on if comedy in general seems to be moving away from improv. And if so, like what new mediums look like, or if like mediums are going to mash together to create new forms of some sort of comedy.
That's a really good, interesting, and layered question. I would say I talk about improv more because I'm not good at sketch and I never have been. So it's just the thing I did the most personally. So I feel like if I'm talking about my personal experience and giving advice on what I can speak to, it's going to be that. That being said, it used to just be occasional random sketch classes. And then when I ran the school, it was Chris Kula and Curtis Quinn were like, we need a sketch program. And I was really psyched to be the guy helping them I was like, yeah, build it and I'll keep signing off on everything. That was really fun. The character stuff was a little after my time.
Yeah. I think like UCB historically was better at improv first. And in terms of improv, it had things to offer that other institutions didn't. But like stand-up, it could not compete with your top stand-up places. Sketch, it was like even for a lot, that might have changed, but for its history, it was always kept playing catch up on that. And so just like, it's an improv place at its core, it'd be like if CBGB started, they're gone. I can't think of something else, but like it was originally known as something and it's hard to shake that rep.
Yeah.
I do think characters were starting to come up big and comedy is moving away from improv. That doesn't mean improv's going to go away totally or lose its place, but improv was kind of the new kid of the table, and now it's kind of the spotlight's moving off of it, I think.
And it'll swing back someday. Someone will do something fucking cool and it'll swing back.
Yeah.
As far as what form it's going to take, I would say, if I'm going to be totally honest, I feel like we're already seeing it, because being a New Yorker and being someone who's always kind of prided myself on knowing, like, all right, let's check out UCB. Oh, cool. Rafifi. Oh, this and that, like just knowing like these things shift. I think that one of the ways that I start, let me say this. How do I say this without just being a shit talker?
Just talk shit. That's how you do it.
Well, one of the things that gave me a real sense that UCB was
becoming shitty.
Maybe you said it.
I know you don't mean that, but like becoming less than what you're used to it.
Losing when it was losing some of its relevance. Was there's a whole generation of Brooklyn comedians in particular who I think even 6-7 years ago would have been embraced as core members of the exact type of thing UCB needed and represented. I'm talking about your Joe Firestones, Brett Davis, Julio Torres, Anna Fabrega. If you even look right now at the stuff Megan Stalter's doing, dude. Will, do you know Megan Stalter?
Yes, I'm just on Twitter, of course.
Oh my, dude, like the funniest fucking person. Catherine Cohen, like all these people who I think 100% fit the Sam Taggart, man. Fucking Mary Houlihan, and a lot of these people took 1 or 2 classes and then went, you know what? I don't have $2,000, $3,000 in 5 years to wait.
Yeah.
They went out, they found their own stages, they started carving it out, doing shows together. And I think that those
that's the path,
those people are the path that UCB, at some point UCB diverged on it went this way. There was all those people were a part of it and would have been the leaders of it. And then UCB kind of went like that. And those people went, all right, we'll go this way. So I think that we're already seeing what it is. I think it's the path those people have taken. And you look at someone like Julio, it's starting to become a thing where people like that are meeting. Like, I don't know. I think Julio once told me that he has never done a show at UCB, which is astounding considering what he does and what the theater does. But he's gone on to some really fantastic success. So I think it's kind of evidence of like, yeah, the people who would be the cutting edge, the cutting edge people are already finding it. And I think it's because a lot of them said, I cannot wait at this theater anymore.
I think it was more sad when the cutting edge people weren't mad at UCB, they just weren't interested. Like there was a period where they were mad at it, and then they're like, well, we just don't even care. Let them do their thing. We're not even looking at it.
Although I prefer that because people like,
well, it's nice. It's nicer to exist in that.
Well, it's also like when people talk, like when I hear alt comedians talk shit, there is a part of me that's like, I get it. And I get how it feels like it's burned. But like some of it was just like pot shots where it's like, you have something so fucking good going. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because other people are enjoying that track too. Anyway, Danny, does that answer your questions?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
It's also our dumb opinions. Now I want to go to somebody, I think I might know who this is. Claspy. Is this who I think it is?
Sarah Claspel?
Is Claspel?
It's nicer to exist in.
Yeah.
Well, it's also
hey.
When people talk, like when I hear alt comedians talk shit.
Wait, you got to turn off the sound on your computer. Just talk to us through the Discord.
Feels like it's burned, but like some of it was just like, enjoy it. Yeah, people are enjoying that.
Trying to catch up. Sarah, you just got to talk to me on the Discord. Hello?
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, hey.
How are you?
I'm good. Good to hear you guys. Good to see you guys.
You too. Such a pleasure.
What a dream. I mean, I am loving all of this. This is very fun. First off, I want to say, please talk about Monstro. But secondly, I mostly did that to annoy the both of you. want to hear about what were the things that like inspired you guys early on, stuff that you saw that like blew your mind. Like for me, it was like the Raw Herald. I saw like Lennon Parham's one-person show. Eliza Skinner had a really good one-person show. There was like stuff that really just blew my mind. What was stuff that you loved?
Now, I'll also say this. You mentioned the Raw Herald. That was a course I taught that was kind of the precursor to parentheses, which you were in. And not only were you in parentheses, I would go so far as to say you were kind of like the moral core of it that would often say, this is becoming useless or disturbing, and can we maybe just focus back up a little bit, which I always really, I thought was very necessary, so it didn't just become a complete fucking waste of everybody's time.
I feel like I could have learned a little more from parentheses, but also, you know, maybe parentheses could learn more from me. So
no, it was. I thought you were perfect, and for anybody watching, Class Bull is a wonderful and joyous improviser and also human being.
Yeah,
thank you. I also teach at UCB now. Oh. It didn't kill me.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
As far as what inspired us,
same shows we've talked about like a million times. Like The Swarm blew me away when I first saw them. The first time I saw the UCB, it blew me away. Andy Daly's sketch show, which was called A Dumb Guy Enters, blew me away. Delaney and Dave's sketch show, Marooned. Ali Faranakian's show blew me away.
Word of mouth. That show.
That was like
awesome.
I saw that like 5 times.
Yeah.
Those shows I really loved. It was all stuff at 22nd Street. Joe and Neil's first sketch show. Your favorite thing? I was really like, man, these kids are so young and they're so good already. Joe Wengert and Neil Casey.
Those shows that made you that blew your mind, that kind of made you like rethink how you were doing comedy or whatever?
Ooh, fun question.
Those are good questions. I mean, definitely Swarm, definitely Respecto.
I'd say like a bit of a reset was when I saw Foursquare. Lutz and Peter Gross and Backendahl and all the varieties of those guys. You know, that kind of like slow, funny Chicago bullshit that I had become prejudiced against, and then I saw it when it was good, and it was like, oh yeah, nothing feels forced. That like blew me away, like kind of like 10 years in.
I know TJ and Dave, I really like their shows, but even more so, I took a workshop from TJ once, and I ripped off a lot of what he did because he really rewired my priorities. Because I don't know if he verbalized it this way. It was many years ago, but I always felt like a lot of his exercises were about like what's the most you can do with the least effort. Like, how can you make your shit as efficient as possible? Like, less talking, less manic energy, just what's going on. How can you grab it and squeeze it?
Sweaty. I heard that word described. Like, don't be sweaty.
Yeah, that workshop really changed it for me. What else? What else really got me? That workshop really
sometimes
did.
It would be individuals. Like I remember like, Pat Bear is on the chat and he's reminding me of the show Flaming Box of Stuff, which was this sketch show from Seattle that came through at one of the sketch
They did all
fests.
crazy like staging stuff.
Yeah, they had crazy staging stuff and they were just like really authentic and dramatic. And I don't know, the sketch fest circuit was sort of doing stuff that at that time UCB sketch was very verbal and talking headsy, and these guys came in from Seattle and were doing lots of theatrical. I don't know what I would think of it now, but I just remember being completely blown away by that show. And me and Pat and I think Dan Greger and Anthony King were all like raving about it after the show. We all were like, "What did we just see? This was incredible!" And it was that was a special show that kind of hit me out of nowhere. I didn't know I was walking in to see a great show, and it was really lovely. Thank you, Pat. That's a good.
I'll
that's
also
a good
say
tip.
too, this is going to sound like bullshit, being that I taught you, I think, in a couple classes, right, Sarah?
Yeah, my 401 and parentheses, maybe a 501.
Were
But
you
Sarah,
in that?
you had more fun in the class that I taught, right? Like that was a much more enjoyable experience.
You
than
did
being
not love.
Chris's-
You did not have. I wouldn't say you had fun in parentheses. I would say for many of the people in the class, it was a strenuous art.
Your class with
experiment.
me was probably like 27.5 times more fun. Would you agree with that?
Probably around that. But I was gonna say, like, this will sound like bullshit. I actually remember more shows. I was continuously, if I'm being totally honest, more inspired by things I saw students do, my students do, than stuff I saw on stage. That always woke me up. There's a few things that come to mind. One was Seth Lind and Sean Clements once did a 2-person Harold in a class I taught. It was Winston. It was Winston Knoll and Seth Lind. And they didn't really know each other that well. And it was just one of those things where it's like, oh man, they are clicking in a way that's like what we all claim this is, and it never is, where they were just predicting each other's moves, involved all this fucking like shifting through different time periods, and then they would always know where the other one had landed before any of us in the class did. That one comes to mind.
There's something fun about two people who don't know each other very well. You see this in classes and stuff a lot, but who also don't know the rules that they're not allowed to break. And they're I teach
really
101. You see some people do stuff that you're like, I've never seen, I don't know, a piece of soap talk to a dinosaur before, but like, why would this happen? And just the ways in which people approach stuff before they're given rules is always so interesting.
I would completely agree with that. It's often when you see people at their best. I also like seeing someone who's at a very practiced and high level with someone who doesn't know what they're doing. I feel like that's very eye-opening, because you see the more green person get empowered, and you see the more veteran person have to play by the rules again and have to slow down again, and it brings out the best in them.
Once in a blue moon, I'll go to a jam, and that's the most fun because you get to play with people. I've been doing improv for a long time, but I get to play with people who don't do it at all, and they surprise you in such fun, weird ways that it's genius.
My favorite. I remember there was a Harold I taught in a class, and fucking Dan Klein was in it.
Keith Bethea, you've told me about this. You've
It
told
was
me
the-
about this one.
The Statesman. It's the
Wasn't
best
this like
Harold
they
I've
just
ever
right
seen.
away like started like just doing like
Their opening was they came out and they did a song. So the suggestion was fucking Pennsylvania or whatever, and they did this song almost like they were like a jamboree band.
Yeah.
Like and each line the person would lay out who they were. And I don't remember the specifics, but this person would be like, and then the next, somebody would set up we're in Pennsylvania, and then the next person would be like, and I'm still running from the law. And then the next person would be like, and my wife won't let me see my kids, so I'm seeing if they're in Pennsylvania. Like each person just kind of said their character game. And then we all thought it was the opening. And then I forget who it was. It might have been Dan Klein just went, all right, thank you, everybody. We are the Statesmen. Can we have a suggestion of another state? And then somebody's like, all right, Wisconsin. And then the same thing. And then it would be like, and the FBI will never find me. And the next person would be like, and if I'm being honest, my wife, she probably has a point. And they just would one by one line. It would now relate to Wisconsin. It would now relate to Minnesota. And just each line in the song would lay out a little bit more of who this person was. And it just was fucking perfect. Those come to mind.
You've told me about that. I remember.
Yeah.
I just remember hearing about that show. That's really fun.
Oh, the class I taught that became Dreadnought. That woke me up to your whole generation, Sarah. Like, no, you started before them. You started before them. I knew you guys because you were in the class with Gerwich and Cutler, right?
Craig Cox.
That was a great class.
Ike was in that
Cox,
class. Yeah.
Craig Cox fucking wrote Blades of Glory.
Oh wow.
None of us knew it, but yeah, your generation I was really close with. The Thank You Robot generation. Thank You Robot. Abra was one of my early favorites. And then the class that became Dreadnought, which was Finelli Kane, Jesse Lee, Noah Foreman was in there.
Mudon.
I was just gonna say Catherine Mudon, Dom. Yep. Got it, nailed it. But yeah, Mudon making me laugh so fucking hard. There's a lot more students with me. would wake me up. I think that's why I always felt like more into teaching than performing at times, because I'm like, this is where seeing people make mistakes and not be cocky about it, and seeing people have to figure it out. I never liked seeing anything that felt fucking cocky. I don't know. Now I'm just being weird and bitter. But you've seen that a million times, Sarah. You've seen that a million times. And how are you in general? How are things in general?
Things are good. I mean, as good as they can be. I'm living in LA. It's fun. I'm on a team called Cardinal Redbird. We're like the weekend team of, or one of the weekly teams of LA.
That's awesome. That's fucking cool.
Got 2 cats.
Yeah.
I mean, life's good.
Beth Appel was in your class too with Gurwitch and Craig, right? Or am I remembering that wrong?
No, we were on a mod team together, but she was on my mod team and was on my first team, Monstro, and then was on Cardinal Redbird, my Herald team that then became this. So me and Beth forever and ever.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Monstro was great.
Yeah.
Jesse Lee, a bunch of good
Cutler,
people.
Matt Mayer.
Yeah, good team. Good team. Sarah, great talking to you.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling, Sarah.
What a joy. I'm seeing, we've mentioned him a couple times. Will, should we do it?
Let's do it.
The guy who gave me the hardest note in my life.
Let's get it. Secunda.
Hello, Secunda.
There's just some lag with most people. There's some kind of time delay.
Yeah, because people are listening on the Twitch. They don't realize that they've clicked in on the Discord because there's a delay. But we'll just wait for Secunda because we got a lot to talk about. Andy Secunda, for anybody watching, he's on the Swarm, which is a very, very, very influential team. Andy, how are you?
Hello.
Hello.
You just talked to us on the Discord. Mute your Twitch.
Bryson, what does he have to do?
This is kind of the best. This could have gone.
This is the most Secunda thing to happen.
I've mentioned 4 times he gave me the hardest note of my life, and he doesn't get to actually make it to the finish line and explain or defend himself.
He's
I know there's a lag, but I can't hear you guys.
Bryson, what do we tell him?
Got it.
Just gotta listen to us on Discord. Don't listen to us on Twitch. Mute the Twitch and just talk right here.
I'm trying to type it into the chat thing.
Yeah, me too.
Everybody type it in the chat so he sees.
They're saying mute the Twitch. Only talk through.
Luckily, the Twitch chat is loving the MNN TCGS vibes of telling somebody to mute their stream.
Yes, absolutely.
You type so fast, Gethard. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I had a teacher named Roz Manzer in 7th grade. She was great. Rosalind Manzer.
Incredible.
Well, I muted the Twitch, but I'm not getting any sound on the Discord.
From
us? You can't hear us?
So now I've turned off the Twitch, and I have no sound.
We can hear you though. Now we can hear you.
Yeah, now you're coming through loud and clear.
We're 2 hours into this.
We're at that loopy hour.
We can hear you, Secunda. Okay. I guess we'll just...
Wait, no, hang on. Let him say something.
You really just want it to work.
Tamra Malaga.
Yeah, okay. We got to move on. Okay. We're going to move on.
Sorry, Secunda.
So sorry, Andy. Let's go to JP Glick Weber. You've been on the line a long time.
JP, you're on.
Give me 1 second to mute the Twitch stream. Yep.
This is supposed to be our lightning round.
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah,
this is as fast as we've ever gone.
Do I have myself? I might be having the same problem as Secunda.
Okay.
Wonder what's happening there. Are we
Hello?
not coming through the Discord?
Hi, yeah. What's up? What's going on? Is it muted somehow, Bryson?
No, they should be able to hear us.
Can you guys hear me? Thumbs up on the stream if you can hear me.
I can hear you, dude.
All right. Well, that doesn't even really help because I still can't hear you. Something's going on with Discord.
Cool. Thank you so much. Let's try Alexa Wise. Alexa Wise.
I'm going to give Yoni a try because I know Yoni has used the Discord before.
Oh, okay, Yoni. Yoni has used the Discord before. Yoni, what's up?
The Discord before.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes. Can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, cool.
So how's it going?
Figure it
out. Sorry for guys who can't. I don't know. Maybe it's playing out for other people. I don't know.
It's all good.
How's it going? I haven't called in before, and I'm in Australia, and I just woke up, so I'm pretty anxious, and I kind of want to speak to that if that's okay. I want to get your thoughts. I guess a lot of comedians, most comedians, we know this, get into it from anxiety or feeling bullied as a kid or something like that. I think improv, I'm a qualified psychologist, I guess. So I'm a nerd. I read a lot of peer-reviewed journals and stuff. I know that improv is really good for people with anxiety, and it's been backed up by studies. But I want to know if you guys have experiences, because studies can be one thing, but I think experiences are probably more important. Do you have experiences with people coming in with anxiety? And my second question with that is, you said before, talking to improv being sort of dying out. Do you think that's bad for people with anxiety? Because it's a form of exposure therapy, getting out there and accepting, yes and is a psychologically a really good thing for people. I just want to hear your thoughts on that, I guess.
Well, I'll say, I think improv has caused a lot of people anxiety as well. I think it gets you caught up in it can feel like a pyramid scheme. It can feel like a lot of judgment. It can feel like the worst parts of high school. That being said, I think I have seen people come out of their shell a lot and feel a sense of empowerment and feel like they get to say things they've always wanted to say. But I got to say on my end, I am very firmly against the idea of trying to use comedy as some sort of replacement therapy to deal with anxiety, because I feel like too many people do that. I think it's pretty dangerous. I'd rather have them talk to somebody qualified than say, oh, get up on a stage, because then what are you getting? You're getting the adrenaline rush of clapping or laughter, and that wears off quick. So yeah.
So you think it's probably not good because they're just seeking validation, external validation.
And I think it's got a lot of short-term rewards. And if somebody knows that, I think it can be very healthy. But long-term, it's not going to fix anything. It can give a confidence boost. But I think if anybody's using it towards that, they got to be very, very realistic about what they can actually get out of it.
There might be something in early classes about listening better and knowing how to be listened to better. There might be something for a couple of improv classes to give you some skills at communication and connecting that could be long-term valuable. I don't know. I agree that it's a diminishing returns, and if you get caught up in the competitive part of it, that's no good. But there's there's certain improv behaviors that are good for your emotions.
I agree with you guys. This is why I hate psychological studies. It's because they do them, but they're always wrong. They're always statistically significant. I'm using air quotes. But you guys have experienced it firsthand. So that's why I wanted to ask you guys, because I kind of wanted this answer. I kind of expected that, because I don't think exposure therapy is really that good, because it's, like you said, it gives short-term returns. I just want to see what you guys have, your experiences with your students or whatever. Have you seen people come in with social anxiety and become, get out of their shell and stuff? Or does it also just bring in people, douchebags who want to make jokes and be seen and make
does that too. Yeah, I think it does both. And yeah, I mean, I think it can help people with social anxiety, for sure. But I think again, what happens the first time you bomb? You're going to feel even worse. You're going to feel panic. What happens if you get caught up in a system where you're like, well, I really want to excel and go further in this system? Well, now you've got this whole other codependency on that. And that's not good. That's not good. So I would say use therapy for therapy. Use art for art.
Wait, so you just said use
therapist.
therapy for therapy? Interesting.
Yeah. Use actual qualified therapists for therapy. Let your art be your art. And if you got an art
very
therapist,
interesting
go for it.
Interesting concepts.
Good in concepts, right? Well, thank you so much, Yoni. Thanks for fixing our audio.
Yoni.
I'm being told Secunda's audio is fixed. Hello,
Right.
Secunda?
Yes.
There
Can you hear me?
Hey.
There you are.
Working.
Now, I'm in a scene. Shannon's playing a street vendor selling belts. I'm making jokes about belts. 21 years old. Chris, if you do that belt move on our stage, they're going to laugh at you, not with you. Andy Secunda, 2001.
I missed the beginning. Set up what the thing was.
Shannon's a street vendor selling belts.
Okay.
I'm buying a belt. Okay. I make a couple jokes about belts. Admittedly, not great jokes about belts. We're largely just talking about belts. I make one joke too many. You stop the scene and say, Chris, if you try to do bullshit like this on our stage when you're actually up there, people are gonna laugh at you, not with you.
This is not a fair rendition of the story, because the important piece of information is what were the wrong moves you were doing, and that is left out of the story.
Hacky, self-satisfied jokes, admittedly.
Okay. I do remember coaching you guys and Shannon being in it too, and being incredibly impressed with you guys. I can tell you that.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I should also mention, you and I have been friends for 20 years after this incident. You don't need to necessarily defend it.
This has come up over time, so it clearly left a mark and has made me feel bad every time. I can tell you the other thing that I remember. I don't know if in saying what I'm about to say, I will be adding insult to injury. If I'm rubbing salt in a wound. But I remember we were doing. I'll just say this as a general heading. It's about your elbows. Should I continue?
Yeah, I do have funny shaped elbows. This has come up. I mentioned in my HBO special, Jack McBrayer once made me cry on stage talking about them. But let's go ahead. You very kindly let me know it's coming. So let's see what we got.
Well, there was some exercise I was having you do, which I don't remember, but everybody was sort of holding hands, and it was something where you had to be kind of physical, and I was in the midst of saying, oh, so you should do this and you should do this. I said, Gethard, you're doing a weird. And as I started to say it, you like jumped in and were like, no, like in slow motion, trying to stop me from saying the hurtful thing I was about. And I got you got a weird thing with your elbows. And it has always stuck in my head, is that you were rightly so concerned that I was about to say something incredibly hurtful, and you knew you couldn't take it, that you tried to stop me before I said it.
Well, that's not unusual. I mean, that's true. I knew I couldn't take it, but I don't remember being mad at you for that. I remember just being an unmedicated and very depressed 21-year-old who was very slightly deformed in some of my joints, and wasn't.
I certainly, if I had known that it was a sensitive area, I would not have said it. Although today I clearly said all knowledge.
Secunda, I never thought of you as a mean teacher. I always thought of you as a very friendly and accessible teacher.
That's good.
You were the teacher that we all went to because
notes.
Yeah, you were the
Pragmatic,
teacher who gave
notes.
us the best individual notes. They didn't make you feel bad. My original Herald team, Monkey Dick, one of the best practices I ever had, you coached us.
Great.
It transformed our team for the better, I think.
What that was that's interesting.
You made an observation. We were like doing scenes. You're like, yeah, there's something wrong. I think you were telling us that we weren't really committing. We didn't quite get it. And then we did a Billy Merritt thing as an exercise, his like documentary opening or something. And you were like, oh, in the documentary opening, you're all committing perfectly. You're like saying yes and giving over easily. Like whatever that is, that's what you need to do. So we started doing the documentary as an opening and it ignited our shows. Like we exploded.
Oh, wow.
Will, I just want to jump in. Somebody in the chat just said, did he just say his team name was Monkey Dick?
Oh yeah, that's right. My Herald team was called Monkey Dick. I'm sorry. It was a dumb name. I don't know why we did that, but
now, Sakunda,
is that much dumber than any other name? No?
It's truly dumb, but all improv names are dumb. I've never asked you this, Sakunda.
Okay.
You're on the fucking Swarm.
Yeah, all the best team of the theater.
All of us idolize the Swarm. Everybody at the theater idolizes the Swarm.
In my brain, the Swarm still occupies right next to the Beatles in terms of like quality.
I remember Swarm shows I saw. Now, you guys,
as someone who now walks into the theater and is identified 7% of the time, I'm gonna drink that in and allow it.
Well, the theater's gone. I don't know if you're in the news. It's kaput, man.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah.
Now I want to know if you because the Swarm was also a group that it was like the UCB.
Wait, can you hear us, Andy? Can you hear us?
Oh no.
I think his sound.
Good question. I have an Emily Pineapple level question.
You guys are jumping in and out just when I want to hear what you're saying because I desperately need it because I'm just alone with my cat all day.
I'm saying the UCB4 ignited it. The Swarm was the first group that proved someone else could carry that torch. Did you feel that while it was happening?
Yeah. I don't think I felt it to that degree. I felt from the love that we received from the community that there was something special, and I certainly felt it being on stage with those, but I don't think I had any perspective on any of it. And I'll also say what's fascinating about all the amazing teams that you guys have mentioned, looking back on it, and I wonder what the reality is, because I've seen just a little bit of improv now. You guys, especially you, Will, have seen so much more. But I am always astonished at the level of just the average show that you walk in to see now compared to our era. And it makes me feel kind of like we were like basketball players in the 50s when you see old footage and they talk about the greats and then you compare them to literally the lowest level today.
Yeah.
It just
you guys were the Bob Cousy's of improv.
Yeah,
exactly. So I do wonder what the reality is of that, but I appreciate that sentiment.
Now, Sakunda, let's not name names. No need to name names.
I'm happy to
Going
name
back
names.
to my point before that there were actual real fringe maniacs allowed to just hang out. This image that every single person at UCB was like an artistic genius who met at the same time. Don't name names, but are there any people that jump out to you where you're like, also this person was hanging out, let's keep this in mind?
Oh, you mean I mean the weirdos that really stick out to me are the ones that I coached for a long time or that I performed with. So I don't know. There's somebody I want to mention who was a time tripper. Can I say this person? Okay. I think you guys will know who I'm talking about. A time tripper in a show that Besser put together called Immortal Combat, where we would all dress up in costumes and embody. Yeah,
I never saw it. That was before my time at Mortal Kombat.
I saw it a couple times, but I don't remember who Time Tripper was. But keep talking.
You're jumping in and out. Will.
Keep talking.
Okay. So, and I dressed as I was editor, and I dressed in kind of a half Freddy sort of costume with these claws, and I would slice through the scene to edit. I don't know why Professor did this to us. One of the really the mainstays of the theater was a gentleman named Ed Snibel, who was I can't hear you guys at all, FYI. So if you're reacting or you're telling me to shut up, then I can't hear you.
We're not talking. We're just listening, showing respect. Showing respect.
I had a lot of arguments with that were kind of similar to the debate you had with the caller earlier in the what is this, a show? Whatever this is. Eulogy.
It's a self-indulgent mess.
Yes, I'm glad I could be a part. Where I was sort of trying to get at, well, I understand, because his thing was, I'm being pure to myself, so if I'm being a weirdo, if I'm being whatever, then it's whatever. And I think he had a point. I think it was valid. But I think at the same time, there was an element of, you have to listen to the people on stage and what they're building. And so I think that was our dispute, was he was saying, I'm reacting honestly to what's being given to me on stage. And so I couldn't tell if it's just like, but I don't know if you're reacting like a maniac to the things that are being given you, or if you are actually reaching a higher level of art. But the only thing I can tell you is, in the Immortal Kombat show, one thing that's always stuck with myself and Sean Conroy from the Swarm that we always remind each other of is that Ed Snible, I don't know if he was dressed in a Doctor Who outfit, but or something else, but he was Time Tripper. So his thing was time dashes. He would take you to different points in time. And he once edited a scene that was going on. Everybody would have their shtick that they would do, and he was supposed to come out, and he also had a cartoon voice that he did, so he would go like, we're moving from here to ancient Egypt and whatever. And he once edited a scene just by coming out and going, this is boring. We go somewhere else.
God. Oh, no.
It made me so happy to think of just doing such a conscienceless move. But it was a pure move. It came from inside him.
Yeah.
Now here's a story you'll love. This is something that I would argue this is only a Gethard response, that I am the only person in our world who consistently has stories like this. About, I would say 3 years ago, I was visiting Lake George, New York, and I was in the lake, not swimming actively, but standing about belly button high in the lake. And a man walked up to me, and as if we'd seen each other yesterday, just went, oh, hey, Gethard, what's up? In the casual tone of people who see each other regularly. It was Ed Snible. Hadn't seen him in 14, 15 years. And back then, not certain I'd had a conversation with him ever. Wandered up to me shirtless in a lake, just started chatting it up as if we'd hung out the Friday prior.
Secunda, I have a question for you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My question for you, and I mean this non-judgmentally, very true curiosity.
Oh, I love this already.
Why have you listened to this whole show? What has kept you here listening, and what is it you're looking for?
Yeah.
And can we give it to you?
I've been wondering the same thing.
And can we give it to you? What is it that you need?
What do I need?
What is it you want from this show?
I don't know that you guys are capable of giving me what I need from emotionally from this show. But I think that I was listening because I thought it was going to be more of a rundown, as we've just done, of the old, and it being. Although I have been very interested in all the discussion of improv. In fairness, yes, I hoped that the Swarm would be mentioned, and there would be some memories that you guys would remember that I wouldn't remember. But independent of that, I really just wanted to hear stories from the old days. So you guys probably are right in that most of these folks have no idea who any of the people you would talk about are, and it's just two old men recounting stuff. But that was why I was tuning in.
I remember the first Swarm show I saw, and I remember a group game that made me.
Yeah, I'm going to tell one too.
Because I didn't go and see shows at UCB until I was 3 weeks into level 1. I had no idea what it was. I was actively doing it every Sunday and had never seen it. And then I went to my first Herald night. I saw Mother, Respecto, Swarm all on the same night. And I never forgot this. It made me laugh so hard. I still giggle when I think about it. Group game comes. Andy Daly steps out and he establishes that it's some sort of like boardroom meeting, some corporate meeting, and he goes, all right, everybody. I've called us all together today because I have a question that's been on my mind. Look, I'm not saying it's going to. I don't think it even could. But what would happen if it rained for 7 years? And then everyone else, all the rest of you just would say, well, why would it rain for 7 years? There's no evidence that that's going to happen. And you would go, I know there's no evidence it would. There's honestly nothing that has happened that would make me think this will happen. I'm just wondering what would happen if it rained for 7 years. And that went on for probably solid 8 to 9 minutes of just the rest of you yelling at him and him just nonplussed asking the same question over and over again. I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen.
That sounds more like a swarm scene than any other description of a swarm scene I've ever heard. People, again, going over and over again, dissecting one tiny thing for very little movement.
I remember a Daly and Secunda scene that I loved from a Swarm Herald. And Secunda and Daly sat down. I forget which one of you initiated it, but it became Daly saying that he was an idea man and that his idea was that he wanted to sell to you, Secunda, was a new kind of hat. And the idea he had was a hat that could look around at the other hats and turn itself into the most fashionable version of itself. And you were like, why? That's nothing. I can't buy that from you. That's not a marketable thing. And Daly insisted that he didn't need to work it out. He was the idea man, that it was valuable and you should buy it. And you were like, but what are you selling me? The concept of a sentient hat? The concept, what, does the hat have a camera? How does it see the other hats? Daly's like, doesn't matter. Like, you figure that part out. And it ended with you buying it from him. And I love it.
I know my favorite, because we now told 2 stories of Andy Daly annoying you in scenes, which was always joyful to watch. I would say if we're talking old school UCB days, to me, everybody talks about the Swarm, Respecto, and then eventually Mother. But I would argue that before Mother, the third most important improv group was actually Feature, which was improvised movies, Saturday nights. I interned on Saturday nights. Feature was incredible. Yes. It was you, a bunch of the people from Pound, and then a couple other people integrated in there. Movie parodies done by just a collection of just really, really intelligent, cultured improvisers who were just clearly consuming movies and constantly talking about genre breakdowns, clearly reading like screenplay books and like really great. And I remember once I teched you guys for a while. And I remember once watching a show where you guys did a pretty pitch perfect sci-fi parody that really leaned Star Wars. And Secunda, you played the Yoda of this world, and I was like actually screaming in the tech booth because you were jumping around like a little creature, and it was the first time I had seen that side of you come out. And it stole the goddamn show. I feel like that's the type of story you've been waiting to hear all night.
Oh, thank God. Thank you, guys. Finally. It was a little bit bumpy there for a while, and I just saw something in the chat. Damn, imagine seeing Andy Daly do improv, and I was just like, oh, this is really taking a nosedive. So thank you. I feel so terrible that I inadvertently pimped you guys into telling stories about the Swarm. Dirty.
I love those.
I do think back to it, and it must have been so exciting, but it was also like, because all of a sudden it was like the UCB weren't, like, I took classes from Ian and a workshop from Amy and some workshops from Besser. I don't know if I ever got taught by Walsh, but like all of a sudden there's this thing that's becoming the coolest thing in New York City, and the teachers are
The Swarm.
The Swarm now. It's not the UCB4. There's just like, you guys had a real responsibility at that point to be like, it's easy for the UCB to be like, yeah, we are the shit. We're the rock stars. We can build this thing. And then you guys are the ones who go, you guys are effectively the John Adams of the whole thing, right? Of like, they went away and it's like, now is the actual experiment going to work? And it did until last week.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it really was. It was a weird time looking back on it because we didn't have an improv community. There wasn't Chicago. Like all these people came from Chicago, but they weren't really fully in the world. Like it was later that a lot of these people like Jack McBrayer joined the world.
Yeah.
So we were sort of going off of what we saw the UCB4 do and what they
thinking
taught
about that,
us.
Andy. Like these shows that Gethard and I saw that loved, you guys had only been studying improv for like 2 years at the time of these shows we're talking about.
Yeah, you talk about like your other caller calling in and sort of being a contemporary and then teaching. Like that's 100% what I was doing, and I was very lucky that that there was very little ego. I mean, I agree with you, Gethard. There was a lot of competition between the teams, but there was also, I think, very little ego on an individual basis, and people were like, "Oh, we can learn from this person," or "I heard this person's good. Have this person coach us." And a lot of it would be, sort of us. I was learning as I was coaching, and we would figure it out together. It was a really beautiful time.
I have a question.
Okay.
On the Swarm, in the time that we're talking about, 22nd Street Theater days.
Okay.
Were you guys ever mad that you weren't being paid, and why not? Especially when you moved to Friday nights.
I know it's not popular to say, and I think, many, if not all, the points about the current world of UCB and the different conflicts have. But at that point, I was so excited to be a part of it. I mean, I think I was already obsessed with the UCB4. Who were nobodies? Like that first, what's the theater in the basement on 42nd Street? That's the West Bank Cafe. Is that what it was? No.
I don't know this.
Before my time, yeah.
Okay. So there was a theater there. The Sklar brothers did some shows there that should show you what era this was. And it was at a certain point, it was just me and Andy Daly alone in that giant theater watching the UCB4 do their sketch show and then do improv. And it was the improv that I was just like, I don't know what that is. And I had already been offered, because I was friends with Andy Daly, who was a star at Gotham City.
Chicago City Limits. He was a star at Chicago City
Limits. I was offered a free class. And I was like, no, thank you. And then I saw the UCB, and I was just like, I don't know what they're doing. That I have to do that, and it just obsessed me. And and then I would climb up, and there was a point. This is another hilarious sign of the times in the early days. I would go and see ASCAT week after week. Kind of became friendly with Walsh, and Walsh, after I'd been taking classes for a while, came into the audience and said, "Hey, do you wanna play?" And I was kind of like, I don't think I'm ready. This is a crazy thing. I was asked to be an ASCAT, and I said no. When people are just dying to get on any kind of team. I was asked to be on the first Harold team, Gigantic Man, and I was like, I don't think so. I don't know if I jibe. And it was just such a, I think it was partly snobbery and partly like, no, you have to click 100%, which is kind of antithetical to improv. You gotta, react to what you're given and be flexible. It's just, I don't know. I'm sorry, I got a little bit off track here. It's just insane to think of that time. And so I say, you were asking about the money. So no, I was so, it was everything to me. I was so excited, and I think I didn't expect it I mean, I think most people get into improv, maybe now it's, what do you guys, let me ask you guys a side question. And Will, you'd probably be able to speak to it more. What percentage of people do you think enter it now going, this will get me somewhere in my career? And what percentage are entering it now because they love it or they're fascinated by it?
I don't know. I mean, like, more people do it now with that career possibility in their minds. There still are a lot of people who love it, of course, but nobody did it in 2000 thinking it would help their career because that had never happened for anybody.
Like, I did it because me and Andy Daly were doing our sketch show and I wanted more stage time to get more comfortable. But outside of that, I just kept doing it because I loved it. It never occurred to me. And I certainly understand now it's a giant, corporation and theoretically people want a piece, but
I just wondered psychologically what it was that, I mean, I remember never even worrying about that. And then when the question started getting brought up a lot, like in 2013, of course it's a reasonable question, and I'm not even arguing its validity. I was like, I wonder why it took us this long to even worry about this.
Well, I got a few opinions on this because I think it's pretty simple. Here's because I was there for the last couple of years when it was as pure as what Secunda is describing, when it was just like everybody felt like, holy shit, we found this. And we were supposed to and everyone in the room felt like, oh, if you know about this and we're all in here together, this means we found our people, and it was pure. I wonder if you guys remember, in my memory, when Andy Daly and Donna Fineglass got Mad TV, they shut down the theater that night and threw a big party because someone had gotten a job. Yeah. So can you imagine if like anytime someone from UCB got a job, they threw them a party? It would have gotten insane. So I remember when they first got a job and it felt like a victory where all of us were like, oh my God. So when you think of that perspective, that we'd throw a party because someone got a job, obviously it shows that money was not a factor. So then it moves on. And when it starts becoming this place where everybody's looking for jobs, it did feel like the community was still small enough that if you were really good, you were going to get attention. The idea of the exposure was real. And Will, like you said, even in the early years of Chelsea, we could all see, like, yeah, nobody's going to be mad if Bobby Moynihan's moving on, or Lennon Parm's moving on, or Zach Woods is moving on. Like, obviously, you know what I mean? Like, we all watch it. We go, obviously, Ellie Kemper's going to get a job. Adam Pally going to get it. All these people, Donald Glover, who saw the Hammercats and things. So it's like, it still feels very much like a meritocracy, right? Then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. LA opens. Now, mass migration. A lot of the best performers, a lot of the best teachers go to LA. I think the dialogue early on is it's still like, well, you go to New York to get really good, and then you go to LA to get your jobs. And that might have proven true for a little while, but ultimately I think it was bullshit. I think there were very few reasons, if you wanted a career,
to stay in New York.
Why just get out of college, go straight to LA, like the teachers who taught your teachers in New York, like the people you'd be learning from in New York were taught by the people you could go study with in LA. So this idea that there was still exposure to be had very quickly diminished. I was one of the last people who I think benefited from that idea of the exposure. And I don't think it was happening much. And then the other thing I'll say, Will, is that with the UCB4 being in LA, and again, knowing them as long as I have, I do believe in my heart that they were well-intentioned people, but they weren't in New York. They didn't understand the massive changes in New York. They didn't understand how, like, when they all moved here from Chicago, they have all these stories of like, and I was living in this like tiny little apartment on 19th Street, man. It's like, you can't do that today. Like, you can't just move from another city.
Yeah, how'd you get that apartment on 19th Street? That's a great deal.
And then the other thing they never realized, that I think they still don't realize, is like, there's places like Union Hall now. There's places like Littlefield. And these are venues where people of the exact same stature as house team level UCB performers are welcome to put on shows and make a decent chunk of change if they sell tickets. So as far as the artistic vision, I think maybe the top level people were still viewing it as if we were in an abandoned strip club. We weren't. The city had changed a lot. And on top of that, there were venues that were playing by rules that benefited the artist a lot more. And I don't think that I don't think that the top of the power structure, they were 3,000 miles away. And I think maybe some of the power structure in New York was very like iron fisted.
Yeah.
Instead of maybe trying to explain what the reality of New York City had become.
Dogmatic.
So
I don't want to put you on the spot, Gethard, but how did it become iron fisted?
I just feel like this is going to make me sad, but even I stopped performing there. And some of that was because I wanted to go on dates with the woman who's now my wife. I didn't want to spend every Friday and Sunday at the theater when I could be going on dates with this beautiful person. Some of it was that the Stepfathers did that DCM show with the Rewind Will. Remember that one?
Yeah, I did.
And I walked off stage. I was like, well, I've been doing this 12 years. I've never done a show that good. I don't think I'm going to do a show that good again. We weren't getting notes. I felt like, man, well, if I'm not going to be better at this, I want to do it. Then the other truth of the matter, though, is like there was such a dedication to the rules. And there were a couple things that happened even to me. One of them was that there's this whole fucking hullabaloo. They wanted us to do the Chris Gethard show at DCM when we already had our own audience at public access. And then it's just really shady about how much money they were charging. And then the time slot was real short. And I was like, I can't do it. And then there's all this stuff. Okay, well, I'll tell my people to just buy wristbands so they can go to the whole festival. I don't want them spending that much money just on our show when they see our show for free. Everyone's like, no, you're not allowed to tell them they can go get wristbands. You have to do it our way. I'm like, well, I'm not going to price gouge my own audience. Like, it was just this way of like, this is how it's always worked. So it's how it's going to still work. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. And it got to the point where I had this, now I'm just really spilling the tea, but where I'm like, guys, like this show I go big. There was one DCM show, Gethard show, where I bought like 20 tents to put on 20 shows at the same time, like all this crazy shit. I'm like, I spent about $600 of my own money on the show this year. Meanwhile, anybody in LA who wants to teach a workshop gets a flight in a hotel room. Like, and now you're telling me I can't even, like you're not, this is just, you think of the rules. And then there was another night, probably one that had as much of an effect as anything, where my dad did the last Gethard show at UCB. Will, my dad did it. I don't know if you remember.
I was there.
And my dad had gone into the green room, and there were all these strict rules. You can't go into the green room until the group before has gone on stage for their second half. And my dad wandered back there. I was getting ready. He couldn't find me, and he walked back to the green room, and a house manager came up to him and was like, "You can't be back here." And my dad turned around and was like, "Oh, I'm Chris Gethard's father. And the manager cut him off and goes, "I don't give a fuck who you are. You're not allowed to be back here." To my dad. I'm like, this is officially, there's too many rules. There's too many rules. There's too much adherence to the rules. Things have turned a corner where the rules are becoming more important than the artists and the humanity. And it was a real problem. People were getting nasty emails from the top down. People would write emails with simple questions and get pretty nasty replies back. There was, stand-ups would show up and get yelled at for taping their own sets, which at any stand-up venue in the world, you're allowed to tape your own set. UCB just is holding stand-up shows, doesn't even understand how they work, and is yelling at people. Here's your drink tickets, but you're not allowed to use them before the show. It's just like, there's such an iron-fisted, let's hang on to the rules. And I think all of those experiences are things where they represented times where UCB really needed to be adapting to the new realities instead of trying to hang on to what the reality had been. It's heartbreaking. And it is, like I said, most of why I left, I was outgrowing it. I had done my best shows, was dating someone new, didn't want to spend every weekend at the theater anymore. But some of it was also me taking a step back. And Will, like you said before, going, if I was 20 and I found this place today, I don't know if I'd sign up here because I'm getting yelled at all the time. And like I said, that's me in 2012, Will. That's me in 2011. Like if someone's telling my dad, I don't give a fuck who you are in 2011, I literally had a key to the theater. That's how much of an insider I was. So when I felt that, I'm like, well, what's happening to the people who don't have every advantage I have? Because I've been here 11 years and I pretty much run the place. And I'm putting up with that. So at that point, I kind of realized this has become dogmatic to a degree that is not, it's creating a pressure cooker, and it tied into the payment, all the payment stuff. Nobody would have given a shit about the payment stuff if artists felt comfortable and free there the way they had when we had it. I don't think they felt that for the past few years.
I think that's true. Secunda, I have one more question for you.
Okay.
Or did you want to respond to that first?
No, a lot, all your opinions, all your reasons for it sound valid, Geth. I feel like the one thing with the manager sounds like, even though I agree that there were structures put on the theater to, accommodate the corporatization of the whole thing, which I think was a necessity. And that may have just been a bad experience. But the only thing, side note, I will say is, I think your opinion of improv was behind you, or you hit this pinnacle and you're never going to top it. I would balk against that, because I that's the kind of thinking that I think I restrain myself with and I shackle myself with. And the whole intention of improv is that you never know what you're going to create next or what new frontier you're going to. So if you ever have the impulse to return, I would say it's waiting for you.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about it, right? The best show you ever do might be the next one. And that's one of the best things about it. I wasn't going to get there. I didn't have the energy personally. And
I mean, you had done a lot of it by that point.
Yeah. And honestly, for as much shit as I've given you, Secunda, I'm at my best when somebody's gone, you need to fucking step up your game. And
well, I'm telling it to you now, Geth.
No, it's good to hear. To have someone say to me, no, you could have gotten further. I needed to hear that then. You can fucking do better. Who are you to think that's the best you can do? I don't have any. Nobody was gonna say that to the
I know you got a wife. You have 2 children at this point, or 1 child?
I got the one. He's the fucking best.
So you got. I know you got a wife and kid, but you know what? You turn your back on improv. So I think you got to reset your priority.
Yeah.
Hines, what was your question?
Well, I feel like it might have been a good wrapping up point, but it's kind of a stepping back old days question. Trying to think about what went right. Trying to think about what went right in the old.
Show, guys.
What's that?
This is your pointless show, guys. You handle it however you want.
Right. My question is for you, Secunda, and you, Gethard. Stuff that went right in the old days. What was it that attracted such a huge number of good people from the year like 2000 until, this is somewhat arbitrary, but let's say 2008. I know it was longer than that, but it just felt like every year, like 5 or 6 remarkable people walked in and said, I want this to be my home. Just like Zach Woods is a 16-year-old saying, I'm going to drive up here. Joe Wengert, Neil Casey in college being like, we're going to come up here and start hanging out. Charlie Sanders and Bobby Moynihan, Ellie Kemper, Aubrey Plaza, Alana and Abby. Like, people just saw it and were like, I want to be here. For a long time. What was that?
Well,
you
go, Secunda.
I'm going to go because it's your show, and then I'll let you wrap out. And also, I don't really have a good answer for that, other than it seems like magic. It's such a pedestrian thing to say about improv, but it's these people just immediately inhabiting this reality, and it's mixed with comedy. So it's there, like it's like people being superheroes. And I've listened to so many comedy slam improv over the years, and generally speaking, I always feel like it's a little bit of sour. But to me, it's I don't know. It's displaying skill that you have to perfect, and certain people are naturals, but you still have to hone. And I don't know. It appears this particular thing that we are interested in, as people were, I'm sure, interested in before any of this. That I don't know. I've gotten completely lost in trying to get to the emotion that I felt immediately. It's gotten, but I can just say it just had an intense emotional reaction to me that has never been matched by anything else. And I have to assume that magnetic pull happened to all the people that you would look at and go, why is this person spending their time?
I'd say on my end, I feel like, I mean, this is going to be pretentious to say, but I think there's actual truth to it. And I think the actual explosion that came out of the place is indicative of this. It's like every now and then a generation has a thing happen where everybody knows it's time to show up, you know, like for some reason a whole bunch of American writers were in Paris at the same time, like, you know, like that they all knew they needed to be in Paris somehow. Like there were a bunch of painters that knew we should all go to the Hudson Valley and paint what the fucking mountains and the streams look like. They all knew at the same time, these movements, you know, like there was a time where you could go to the East Village of New York and you might see the Ramones and Blondie and Talking Heads on the same bill. How did that happen? You know, for this, whatever the same reason is that you somehow could go to UCB on a random fucking Wednesday night in 2001 and you could see, you know, all these people you just named, you know, like it's just, it was one of those things where there was a vacuum and somebody figured out how to make the crack that the oxygen poured into, and then everybody who needed to take that deep breath ran to it. And we're really lucky to be there. Lucky to be there.
Yeah.
Now,
I think that's beautiful, Geth, and I agree with you. And
oh no, go for
what's interesting is I agree with you. Looking back on it, at the time, I don't think it felt like that. I think we just desperately wanted to do it and be, and perform with all these people.
Well, that was one of the things back then that changed, right? Was like the success wasn't up to us back then. And in the past few years, when people show up, there's this legacy of success and it's on them to go get it. We had no responsibility to go be successful at this professionally. There was no expectation of that. And there was no legacy to uphold. There was no feeling that if you went and worked hard and got ahead here, it would happen. It didn't exist. That helps a lot. Now, here's my last question. And I might say goodnight, Kunda, just to make it full circle and end just with Will. But Will, here's a question, basic question, because I've never asked anybody else about this. When you're improvising, and you really feel like you're hitting the zone, you're having one of those shows where you're like, all right, I'm in the groove. What does that physically feel like to you?
Ooh, that's such a fun question. Well, I feel light and small and handsome, and feels like music. Like there's a beat, and I just have to make my move when the beat comes around to me, and I don't even have to think about it. And it feels like a great conversation where I'm being heard 100% and I'm hearing that person 100%. Lightness and effortlessness is what it feels like. It feels like I could reach out one finger and lift up a building. That's what it feels like. You know?
That's pretty fucking cool. And your cat is awesome.
I know. She's been very sick and she's been healthy again lately, and it's nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's like 17 years old. Remember when I had a nervous breakdown and almost didn't take them with me to LA?
And there was one point where you tried to convince me to fly to LA to carry one of your cats. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
You were going to pay for me to go to LA and back to carry a cat on a plane.
Yeah, like I eventually got Kevin Hines to do it, which made more sense for me to ask my brother.
And made a lot more sense.
But yeah, she's doing better lately, which is nice.
Yeah.
What do you feel like, Gethard?
I remember always feeling like this weird like what's that thing where you see numbers as colors? Is that synesthesia?
Yeah.
What is
Secunda, you still there?
No, Secunda hung up.
Okay.
But I remember distinctly having this feeling when I would really get in the zone where it was like I'd be able to process the information that was coming at me faster than the audience could even.
Oh yeah.
Like I was able to be making decisions about information at a pace that the audience hadn't even heard the sentence finish yet. And like I always remember, there's a very weird thing, but I would remember the physical sensation of things in front of me going like this. Duh, duh, duh. I've never told anybody this before. Like duh, 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 duh. Like almost like these windshield wipers, where I'd be hearing information and I'd be like, I could go this way, I could go that way, I could go this way, that way, this way, that way. I'd see 3 or 4 choices in front of me at once. And I just act on instinct, like almost like a Plinko chip going down the thing of like, I could,
Yeah.
I could see them. And especially,
I love it.
and you'll identify with this. I'm so mad that he and I have lost touch. But when me and Zach were on stage and at our closest, he and I could get 2 words into a sentence and I'd know what he was going to say, not just the rest of the sentence, but 3 exchanges from now.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, he's giving me this or this, this or this, this or that.
Yeah.
And it felt very binary to me. When I could go this way or that way, I could go this way or that way, I could go this way or that way. That way could lead to that or that. That way could lead to that or that. I would just know. I would just know before anybody else did. And I felt like I could when I was at my real best. See, I'm pretty funny when I'm cooking, but I feel like when I'm at my best is when I'm going like, all right, like, Will, here's the thing for you. Zach, here's the thing for you. Sylvia, here's the thing for you. Shannon, I got you this. Delaney, I got you this.
Yeah.
I always felt like my favorite shows.
Yeah, you were great at setting everybody up.
I actually came to really love the shows where I was not funny, because generally if I was funny, it was because I felt like I had to be, which meant that
like a point guard who's got to shoot or something.
Yeah, no, I just like passing by the end. I was just like that scene in that one X-Men movie where fucking Quicksilver can run faster than reality. When I was at my very, very best, most well-practiced, in the zone. Those shows like the fucking Rewind show, the shows like that Chinese Dragon show, the Chinese New Year show.
Yeah.
Those shows, I remember just feeling like those Arsenal shows with Peter Gwynn. I could go this and that. Just saw shit faster than the audience. It felt fucking cool. Especially as a powerless human being with deformed elbows. It felt fucking cool to be like, none of you even know this thing that I'm pulling off right now. You can't even.
People I played with, I always felt like you were the one, and Neil Casey's the other one that I would say, where the show could get fixed. The show could never go so bad that you guys couldn't pull it out.
Yeah,
that was, and there were other improvisers.
But Neil was a lot more powerfully funny than me. Neil.
I don't know about that. It doesn't matter. There was. I'm trying to make a comparison here between some improvisers had amazing individual power. Connor Ratliff, right? There's nobody funnier than Connor Ratliff, and immense charisma, and just a great actor, and one of the all-time best improvisers, no doubt about it. He couldn't pull a sinking show out necessarily. It's not where his strengths are.
Well, Connor's also only been doing it a handful of years.
Right.
I don't remember that.
But you and Neil, if you and Neil were on the stage, I was like, this show's going to be good. This show's going to be good.
See,
and
I could do wit. Neil could lift the whole theater up and fucking shake it if he felt like it. I couldn't do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you always need to make yourself second, but I'll just tell you that, like, when we were doing Stepfathers every week, if you were there, I knew the show would be good. If you weren't there, show's probably going to be good. Show's probably going to be good. And everybody was individually very powerful. But we would get ourselves into corners sometimes.
And here's why
I felt lucky to be there. Like, I never felt like a natural improviser. I never felt like it was naturally my thing. I caught the fire because I was there at this special time, and I just put my whole self into getting as good as I could. And I got good at it. But that feeling you're saying about the windshield wipers or the Plinko, I never had it. I sometimes would feel like I was good at being a little ping pong ball and riding the wind and like staying afloat for the whole time, but I could never steer.
But here's what you had more than anyone else had, which was, I don't think I reliably knew more than anyone else I ever played with, that if you stepped on stage, you gave a shit about what was going to happen. And I don't know that anybody else can say that. There's people who took nights off even though they were on stage. There's people who would make the same jokes they made a month ago because they knew they worked. There's people who sat on their fucking phones until showtime. They didn't care. They were there for the wrong reasons. They should have quit. Anytime I stood on stage with you, I was like, nah. And you know what that did for the rest of us? And I don't know that you ever realize this or give yourself credit on this, is when someone else gives a shit, you can let them down. And you always set a standard. We have to give a shit. And the amount that brings to shows is immeasurable.
Well, maybe Gethard. That's why I got all those likes on that Facebook thread, is people don't want to let me down.
Yeah.
They know it'll hurt me. They know it'll hurt me. And they're like, this means something to Will. We can't let him down. And they're like, Gethard, we could let him down. He doesn't need it. No. But here's then their mistake is...
You're making a joke, but here's the reality. You never let them down. I did. I quit on it. I quit on it. And I meant something. There was a certain wing of students that needed me.
I think it's true.
And I think when I quit teaching, there was a certain group of students that did not feel like they had as much of a home as they did when I was there. I quit on them. That's why I'm not getting the likes you got. You never quit. You always cared.
I coached a Lloyd team on Saturday, baby.
Look at that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks to everybody who called in. We've now gone 3 hours and 15 minutes.
That's pretty good. We did all right.
I think that's about what I would have expected.
This made up to our self-indulgent deep dive, too long, unnecessary standards.
Yeah, there were parts that were really nerdy and technical. There were parts that were really schmaltzy and
insufferable,
melodramatic, totally insufferable.
We were stepping beyond we presented ourselves as authorities, and we have almost no right to do that.
Just a couple schmoes who have been through it, man.
Yeah.
Just a couple schmoes who have been through it.
Gethard, thank you so much for asking. I loved it so much, and it's so sweet of you to think of me like the old days. I mean, I miss it. I really miss it.
Me too,
and when the New York Theater closed, I got the email. I was gutted.
Me too.
Even though I wasn't totally surprised, when I saw the email, I said out loud, "Oh."
I know.
I felt this big sigh, and I was like, I can't believe it's over. I can't.
Well, it's that sort of thing where it's like, even when you can live away from home as long as you want, but once your parents actually go and sell the place, now you can't go back, and that sucks. That's I realized that I dropped the ball, not going back at all. But
no, moving forward and looking at the future is not bad. No one was truly mad, Gethard. Everyone who loved you still loves you. I love you.
Some people were mad. Some people on the Stepfathers weren't mad I left. They were mad. Well, I think ultimately when I left, it was fine, but I didn't need to kick and scream so much.
There was some bumpy things on the way, but that's all right. It ended up all right. It ended up all good.
It ended up all right.
Yeah.
And I always had generally good intentions.
Yeah, it was tough for you to leave too. It was tough for you to leave.
But Will, don't you underestimate yourself more than anybody else. You give a shit. You give a shit.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bryson, too. Thank you, Bryson.
All right, Bryson, you're the best.
Thanks everybody who listened and
remember
chatted.
everybody.
Thank you so much.
Wednesday we got Robbie Hoffman, Will Miles here taking calls. It's going to be really fun. And then Monday, May 4th, we got Connor Ratliff, Griffin Newman doing 28 hours of Star Wars broadcasts in characters, George Lucas and Watto. All kinds of fun stuff. Join our Discord. It's a very positive community. There's an open mic there every Saturday night where it's actually set up where you can hear the audience laughing. Generally, there's like 50 or 60 people in there, and people go and run bits, and it's really positive and addictive and nice. Thanks to everybody who got on that Discord and talked to us. Sorry to the people who I didn't get to your calls, and we'll see you Wednesday.
Bye, everybody.